Shale. Hello. I don't know if I can hear. I can't hear you right now, but maybe it's something.
Uh,
Oh, I can
is
hear
this
you.
any better?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to connect with my Bluetooth, but my computer's like horrible with it.
No
So
worries, man. Glad you were able to make it on.
thank you. Thanks for hosting us.
Of course, yeah. I know. What is it? Geraldine said that she's getting her setup going, so we'll probably give it a second. But hope y'all are doing okay. If it's cold here, I'm assuming it's cold over there too. So.
Honestly, it's not too bad right now. It was pretty bad like 1 or 2 weeks ago. We actually ended up getting some snow.
Oh wow.
How's it over there in New York?
It's kind of cold. They said it's colder than Alaska in some parts of New York here.
Shit. Uh,
So, but it's not. I think I'm warm here in the apartment, so I can't complain.
yeah.
But yeah, hi Alice. Thanks for joining. I saw her raise her hand. I'm not sure. Hello.
Hello, I'm having issues.
No worries. Yeah, I
Can
can.
you guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
It says
Hello.
that I have some sort of privacy shutter on my camera. Oh my goodness.
Is it like a switch?
Well, I don't see a switch, so I'm assuming inactivated something. Oh god.
My camera is not working and
Just
my
chat
wired
amongst
headphones
yourself.
let me talk.
Oh, what was it, Alice?
So- Hi everyone.
What did you say, Alice?
Welcome.
You're muffled.
Sorry, I'm using wired headphones and it's not letting me talk. But I'll be listening though. I can't even open my
Oh
camera.
no, that's better. That's wherever you put your earpiece is better. Because
Okay.
you sound better.
Okay. Okay. I'll talk to you guys in a bit more.
Yeah, do dinner and stuff. Like, this is very casual, so if y'all need to do whatever, like, I'm just here for whatever would be most helpful.
Thank you.
Happy to
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, I'll put my headphones
Sorry,
in.
I'm gonna work on like this tech issue. What's going on?
Yeah, I was having the same type.
You have to wait for Matthew anyways, because he's late as usual.
Nah, there's no late for office hours.
I'm surprised you're not late, Shale. How are you on time? You're like
Why am
always late.
I'm like normally on time.
No,
What do you mean? I come to the right place, but I'm not like at the wrong time. It's just
okay, that's Oh, sorry, you guys haven't Shale. I don't think
What?
do you remember Jason?
Yeah,
From he came for BSDF.
we met.
yeah, VSF.
We met at VSDF.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You guys remember each other?
That's why I was like, when Shale was the first one to pop on, so I was like, oh yeah, familiar face.
Yeah, it was you and one other locker from New York, right?
Yeah, his name.
Were you in the 2v2 battles at Hari Harry?
Yeah, that was us. But yeah, no, that was like one of my favorite parts of 2024. So can't believe it's been so long already since I saw y'all.
Yeah. It's been a while. I'm so sad that they canceled it. But
And now it's never gonna happen again.
Golly, that's so dark, Geraldine. It just means we have to host our own locking.
That's it.
Yeah, gotta bring back some other event.
Where's the camera setting?
I mean, if it works better, you could do your phone. I don't know if that's your preference, but
But it's gonna be so hard to see. Connecting my laptop to my Okay, just give me some time.
You can do what I do during like my work meetings. You can use 2 devices. One so you can see, and then like one so you can be on if you want.
Why are you using 2 devices for work? You have some issues that you need to use 2 devices.
Well, my boss does it too, so I'm not alone. But like we use our phone for like the Zoom, and then like we log in on our laptops so that we can still see like if people do like screen sharing and stuff. So
Zoom has screen share. Oh, okay.
So yeah, I don't don't use. I try not to have to screen share. Make other people do that instead.
Okay, I might have to use 2 devices because I've changed all my settings and it's still not working. Where is this switched?
Yeah, whatever works best. Like, no pressure. If you have to do the call like without showing us, then that's fine too. Like, having y'all on, just your voices are beautiful too. How's everyone's day so far? Has it been busy? Thursday?
Yes, because we had a holiday on Monday. I don't know if it was a holiday in the States, but basically less days for me, but still same amount of work. So this day's week's super busy.
Yeah, we had a holiday too, so I cannot.
Yeah, it's President's
Oh, on Monday also?
Yeah. We were.
Oh yeah.
We were chilling. Or actually, okay, I think a lot of people still work President's Day, but since I work at I work in one of those like I guess the affected institutions or like more government type related stuff, then like it was off, right? They were closed. So.
President's Day? So what do you celebrate on President's Day? Oh, Jason, you know Shield's like half American, right?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
We only accept him because his Canadian side shows more. Otherwise, we would hate on him way more.
We're all North American.
Yeah, there you go.
Americans are very different.
I don't know.
Yes.
Pacific Northwest is kind of the same place across the border.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true.
Seattle people and you people, everybody felt the same to me.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'd say that's true.
Yeah, I don't remember anything that was like weird. Like it all felt very normal when I visited y'all. Wait, I guess Joe.
That's
good. What part of the States are you from? If you're half American.
I grew up in Portland, Oregon.
Oh yeah, PNW. There you go.
Yeah.
Same deal. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's basically just like the same as Vancouver, just like different country.
Yeah, that's like I'm originally from Texas, so it's like it'd probably be.
What about which part?
I'm from Houston. I grew up in Houston, but I went to school.
Oh, okay. I think I have some like uncles over there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good food, like Tex-Mex, all that.
Yeah. No, my grandma's over in El Paso, but we like it's such a hassle to get over there, so I kind of am excited for like Texan food eventually.
Yeah, and I guess with El Paso, you're close to like the border and stuff, so you could do like the. I remember there was a big like national park, preservation park. We have called Big Bend, and that was pretty fun because it's like you actually get to walk like on the border and jump back and forth. I did that when I was in college.
When you moved to New York, then?
I moved here in 2022, so almost 3 years ago now. But,
okay.
Yeah, I moved here after school, just for work.
Do they have any lockers in Texas, or is it not as big?
There was like one guy who taught at my university, and he's like the one who like kind of holds it down. I think Lock Static is actually out there now, though.
Huh.
So Lock
yeah,
Static,
he is.
And my teacher's name is David, but they call him Trouble Lock. But he kind of would teach a lot, and he was like basically the only locker. So for a while there were 2 of us, but then I left, so then he was all mad. He was like, "They don't need more. We need you more in Texas." But I'm like, but now there's actually a lot of people because he started teaching at the studio. Lock Static has also been like subbing for a lot of the classes too, so it's kind of cool to see. But there's definitely more lockers here in New York. But I've told Geraldine this and like a lot of other people. Like a lot of the lockers that we have in New York are just in hiding, or they're very they don't go out a lot. So it's hard to convince people to like get out of their shell and like be part of the community and stuff. So, but it's fine. Like a lot of them are like we have like a lot of like older folks. So like the
Yeah.
people who are like they're like Buddha Stretch level, or like they've been in the scene as long as like Buddha Stretch and stuff, or and
Yeah.
those folks, it's like you're lucky if you just get to dance with them at parties and everything.
Yeah, that's fair. Are they not? I'm guessing a lot of them aren't battling so much anymore.
Yeah, like I think a lot of them they'll come to support events sometimes, and
Yeah.
like they'll cipher, but they don't enter a lot anymore. I mean, I guess like Hurricane, he enters sometimes. just to remind everybody to keep training hard.
Okay, I have to use, sorry to interrupt you too. I have to use my phone and it's telling me to use companion mode or switch here.
Do you have
Would one of them show it? Which one would make me like look at my laptop instead of my phone? Is it switch here or use companion mode? Either of you know?
What I would suggest is if you have like another Google account, you can enter or you can log in on the other Google account so that you don't have to like choose between the two.
Oh, just use a different Google account? Okay. So I guess I'll just join here.
There you go.
Look.
Uh-oh, wait. I think the feedback's still there. I'll have to mute one of the devices.
Yes.
Yes. I muted. Now, why is this?
Do you still,
You still hear
feedback?
feedback?
Slightly, yeah.
I don't know if you have one of these handy, but this might be helpful so you don't have to like take it out or whatever. But I just happen to have these for sessions. Do you have one of these?
Yeah, my stabilizer is in Edmonton, so for my phone.
Or you can just pop it up against like a water bottle or something. I don't know.
Now, why did the camera go off on this one? Oh God!
Oh, it just went off. Yeah. It was on for like
Oh.
up until now.
Don't watch full screen.
Noise.
Okay, no feedback.
No feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I think Matthew said that he's coming on too.
Oh, now?
I'm joining from my desktop, so I'll be wearing headphones. LOL.
Oh yeah, I guess I could just wear earphones. There's no feedback.
No, there's no feedback right now, though. So, you're good. Unless you want to. Here we are. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Not bad. I just got back from work, so yeah.
Yay. Perfect
Tired,
time.
tired. Yeah.
Geraldine just fixed her audio-visual setup, so you are perfectly right on time.
Oh, okay. Oh, my camera just cut out. Hold on.
Setup ever. I have to use two things. Matt, you have to come to my
My camera
place
just
and
cut out.
figure it out. I need someone that understands computers here.
I like a tech support for real.
I need you to be unpaid tech support.
Wait a minute, I never said unpaid. Hold on.
Whatever, you're working for free already now. It doesn't matter.
What?
It's a continuation of your work.
Ah, fuck. I am already working overtime for free. How dare you say that?
Where'd Jason go?
I'm here. Why?
What? Oh, this. Wait, there's
Oh,
two.
your
there's two
video
of
is
you.
gone.
Okay.
Huh?
Why is all of your videos?
On your computer?
Can you guys see your videos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see you and I see Shale. And then Matthew just turned his off, so it's just the three of you.
Oh, my internet is bad. It says video was paused due to problems with your network.
No, not like this.
Wait. With my camera. What's going on? Good, I got you.
Okay.
Hold on. My camera just died. Wait.
Why are you off the? What's wrong? Matthew, why don't you have video?
My camera just died. Wait,
No, it's okay.
there we go.
Nice.
There you go. Swap device for some reason.
Hey, and your
There we
head's
go.
higher this time.
Do you want to lower your camera angle?
I have a chair right now. I can go to
the top of your head.
the chair. It's like I'm actually in a Zoom call. Fellas, I have to give a Scrum update.
Don't worry, this is not a work meeting. No work, no scrim updates needed.
Aren't we all supposed to be standing? I thought we were.
I can stand up right here. Boom.
I'm sitting.
And then I move my chair. Yeah. Oh my god, you're chill with the belt. Okay, I respect that.
Let's go.
Oh my god.
Okay, my video's super delayed. Oh, now I see you standing up.
It's okay. You'll just see us going up and down.
Maybe it's because I have. Do everything.
Do you have things running in the background? Like a download or something?
Well, it's because I have
don't
to
make
use
slow.
my laptop and my phone because for some reason I disabled my camera on my laptop and I don't know how to enable it
Oh.
again.
It's like a
But it's
physical-
enabled on my privacy settings, so I don't know. I did something weird in the background.
Oh. Yeah. and If I ever go to your place again,
What do you mean if? Like, you're
I'm
gonna
sorry.
come to my place for like the video night and you're gonna come to my store. What do you mean?
Oh, That's true. That's like in like 3 weeks. When I come back, I'll be affected by then.
Yeah, no, like I'm gonna remember this. I'm
Yeah,
playing
on the way
tech
back from
support
Seattle.
because this is your first job when you come back to me.
The first job. What the fuck?
On the way back, just put like the child locks on the car door and just drive them to your place. In Seattle.
I don't encourage this shit. I don't want to be
did-
kidnapped.
Except I
encourage
never
this.
drive downtown, so it's not gonna happen. Okay, so what are we doing? I think everyone's here. Sorry for the issues, Jason.
I'm gonna reroute that question to you guys. What are we doing today?
Wait a
What do
minute.
you want to do?
I'm not sure what I signed
Tell
up for now.
Matthew Ellis while you're cooking.
No, okay, so typically, right, for I don't know if y'all like read like the little, or if Geraldine had shared like the little like
Yeah, I
description.
shared it.
Okay, cool. So I guess those are like options that I was just like I put out there for folks who were like interested here in New York. And then like when Geraldine reached out and said that y'all were interested, I was like, oh cool, yeah. So happy to I guess as a way of just kicking it off, just like check in with everybody like with where you're at with like, and this can be either dance or this could be like life wise, but like stuff that like where you feel you're at and how you would like to share that with relation to this office hour session together. So I'll start just to be fair. I think right now, like as far as like, and this is what I mean by like life and like dance stuff, right? So recently, like I kind of have complained to Geraldine before about like life has been very like up and down. So I felt like dance felt like that too, because at least for me, dance was always very like aligned with like what was going on in life. But then recently, life has felt a little bit more grounded. So like now I feel like my dance is a little bit more grounded than it was before. So that's how I'm coming into the session.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. Sorry, I'm trying to still figure out which is better for video.
I can go then. Well, you figure it out.
Go. You want to go? Go.
I can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess I've been taking a dance break recently, actually. So like, I haven't danced in like the past month and a half, maybe. Yeah.
Month
this
and
is
a half, you said?
I think so. A month and a half. It's when I started therapy. This is when I quit dance for a bit. Yeah. I also started that. Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like I had a very unhealthy relationship with dance. Probably everyone's went through this, where it's like it takes over your entire life and it becomes everything, and that's the only thing I cared about. and then became like very perfectionist and like very self-hateful with dance. So I took a step back and it's reevaluated how I want to approach dance, I guess, and then my relationship to it. I feel like now, after like a month and a half ish, I feel more comfortable for myself and comfortable with my dancing. So I want to try going back into that and easing into it again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, she has just like a full muscle man right there. I see you.
I guess I'll go next. As for me, it's probably just like my biggest issue right now is just like being consistent and comfortable with slowing down and kind of relaxing and not having to be like feel like I have to go like 100% all the time. Because I think it takes for right now like a lot more. I don't know. It's a lot harder for me to slow down and just groove and be comfortable grooving, especially like in a cypher in a battle, than it is to just like throw out as many moves as possible. And that's like not usually what you want to be doing. So just trying to work on that right now. And that's kind of a bit of a slow thing because it's just like, I don't know, trying to get more comfortable with it is a bit as much of a part as like just drilling groups.
And then I guess for me, kind of similar to Shale, but slowing down and then just basically doing the move I want to do that to match what I'm hearing. I still can't figure that out. I think it's more practice that I have to do and like labbing because I don't practice. But like I hear something, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, but I know I should be doing something related to like this part in or whatever it's doing in the song, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do yet, but after like I listen to the song like 3 or 4 times and like, oh yeah, I figured something out. So I'm kind of stuck because if it's a new song, I'm just like, I don't know what to do, but I know I should be doing something related to this. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck there, but yeah, still feels super beginner and locking. Still trying to learn a lot. It's still something that brings me joy. And it's not stressful, so it helps me to de-stress. So yeah, locking is still very therapeutic for me. Yeah. Ellis, are you cooking or you want to share?
She's cooking up her story right here. Exactly. We are eating it up right now. Serve that shit. No crumbs left.
If not, it's okay. We can check in with Ellis later when she's available. But
Oh, sorry, I'm in mute. Sorry.
okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, I was just supposed to
Did
be.
you hear the question?
No, I was
Okay.
driving instead. We wanted. I thought we were. Sorry, we were supposed to have dinner at home, but then we ended up going out. Anyway, sorry, what's the question again?
If you just wanted to like share, or if whatever you wanted to share about like where you feel with either dance or life or both.
Well, VSDF's not happening this year. That's what I'm sad about.
Damn it, bro.
That's end of an era, guys. I'm just kidding. I think that's like the highlight of my life right now. I'm just slowly going back to dance after my surgery from my wisdom tooth. So, yeah. But anyway, after that, it's But there's still more like other events happening outside, like small events, like the morning disco in here right now. Yeah, Vancouver scene is really very, very tame compared to like US for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's my opinion for now.
Yes. I think just like as highlights, but then we can like dive into it deeper with like the office hours portion, like the official start. But like, I'm going into a break pretty soon too, so I definitely relate on the folks that mentioned like breaks, and I think that's really important because just like Campbell locking, the importance of in Campbell locking is that there's a stop, right? And I think with both what Hurricane and like Tosh, who are some of like my mentors in the art form, like they always stress the importance of like if you feel like it's going too much, and I think Shale, to your point as well, like even in the music, it's good to just be able to like chill, like. And it's okay to chill, right? Like, and I think we all know that, right? Like, I'm preaching to the choir here, but like, it's kind of hard to do that in practice a lot. And I think that's something that within the last year, like I told you guys, like my personal has just been like this, and that's kind of come through in my dance. So I think that driving that point home, at least personally, has helped to be like, okay, like I used to be a really hyper Campbell Locker, and I would like always just be throwing stuff out and hope like something lands. But very similarly, like in order to make it hit harder, like Don, he always stopped when the music told him to stop. So the music of life, haha. So, but yeah, and I think on a similar vein, right? Like where there's not really like, I think we always feel like beginners, right? Geraldine's gotten mad at me for saying that, and like a lot of my friends have gotten mad at me for saying that, but there's never really a point with this journey where you're supposed to feel like you've got it, right? You may feel like you got it more today than you did yesterday or like a year ago, right? But it's supposed to be, and it depends on your goals with it, right? Like if this is something that you think it's like transitory, or if you feel like it's something that like, oh, you're just checking it out, and that's valid too. But like I think for a lot of folks, we find it helpful to stress that this is a lifelong journey with the dance, that it's not something that you should be trying to like game the system and like, oh, if I got it within a year or two, like I'm gonna be like VSDF champion or Summer Dance Forever champion, you know, like those sorts of things, like they come as you embody more of like what you want. So I think that's a good place to kind of like start off with like the office hours official portion. So my follow-up question, and we can delve into more of these things, right? Like I want you to not divorce or like split what you're feeling in like everyday life with what your dance is, right? Because the spirit and the essence of Campbell locking, at least, and quite frankly all of street dance, right, but most especially within Campbell locking, is that we can't nobody beat you at being you. We always hear that. But just as much as we dance the way that we want to within Campbell locking, the same is true for the life stuff. And I feel like a lot of the folks, it doesn't mean you have to be like a spiritual, like a guru or like Buddha or whatever in order to be like a good Campbell locker. But what I have noticed is like the philosophy part of it, like has been a pretty big thing for a lot of the elders, right? Like when Don would always share with people, he was very big about like that essence of like, oh, like when you take these moves that I made but you make them yours, that's what Campbell locking is, right? Or like even like Greg Campbell Lock Jr., when he started to like teach and share the culture worldwide, he had his philosophy with like the 5 pillars of locking, right? But he was, according to Tosh, who was pretty close with Greg because she did Elite Locking Camp and Las Vegas Locking Camp with him too, he was a very like philosophical guy in general, right? Same thing with Shabadoo, right? Shabadoo is very much like martial arts. That's why when you see him in breaking, or when he like in the movie Breaking, right? Like when he's using, like whether he's wagging or whether he's Campbell locking, he is inspired by martial arts, right? Or like a lot of the elders are like that, right? Same thing with even Demita Jo Freeman, like the way she approached it, fellow Texan, right? But she, like the way she would do it is like she was very like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna happen to put Campbell locking on top. But being Don's first partner, it became pretty important for her to just be herself whenever she would dance alongside Don on Soul Train, right? So stuff like that. So all that to say, here's your next follow-up question. What is it within Campbell locking that with our time together today you feel like would be most productive, right? Because we can go into like the culture stuff like I was just like preluding here. We can go into like, oh, how do you be you while you're doing the Campbell locking? We could go over different like frameworks of like techniques if that's helpful too. Whatever would be like most productive and use y'all's time like the best way possible. Yeah. So I'm gonna open it up, like just anything that's been on your mind or things that you feel like you would want to explore more within the art form or even outside of it, right? Like I even said, like this can also just be a yapping session. So if that's most helpful for people, I'm happy to yap, because you can tell just by the sheer like interruption, I can talk all day. So I'm gonna shut up now and like hear any feedback on like what y'all would like to use the time for.
I guess I'll go first. I don't know. For me, like, because I've only been doing this pretty recently, I feel like culture would be good to know. Because, like, I mean, I know what like Tosh told me and like a few other people, but you know, there's still some pretty big gaps there.
I saw you mute, Geraldine. I saw you mute. You go first.
No, I'm letting you go. That's why I muted and unmute go.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like, "Oh, we're about to
fight right now." Yeah, I feel like for me, I'm about to yap for a second here. Yeah, I feel like for me, a lot of what I want to do in dance right now is that embracing myself part of dance. I feel like I've spent a lot of time kind of doing that, like trying to game the system. Be like, yeah, if I just like be good and just like better than other people, I'll be like, I don't know what that game was. I'm gonna be honest, but I'd just be good. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that was pushing away how I felt and like any other feeling I had, and like isolating dance itself, just grind that kind of like as a job or something. Yeah, yeah. But I feel like I'm trying to now like unlearn all that. I guess unlearn that like I don't know crazy obsession and unlearn that I don't know it's a toxic mindset. But it's like yeah, like just try to learn to more I guess express myself and actually feel things during dance instead of just being like locked in and being like all right I gotta be good I gotta like listen to the music full on and express this like move right here exactly and actually be like okay I can chill I can like actually feel shit. Yeah, and it's okay to do that. I think that's my wife.
Okay, my turn. So I don't know if we can do this in the time that we have, but me and Shale actually have a battle. It's All Styles battle next 2 weeks from now. And All Styles is like one of the things lockers really hate. So if there's any tips for a locker in an All Styles battle, that would be helpful for a beginner like us. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I think, and then Ellis, if you want to say anything, you can jump in and interrupt me. But if not, I'm happy to keep going. So, let's just go through the brief overview, and then we can dive in deeper, right? So, first of all, I think culture-wise, I was pretty similar, right? Like I was kind of telling you before. This leads back to like that thing about being from Texas. I had no clue, right? Like the only things I knew were like from YouTube and like from Instagram and just stalking a lot of people, right? And when I came to New York, I was like, holy mackerel! Like I can't go. Like, if you don't know, I would encourage you all to come visit sometime, and love to have you and host you and stuff. Like, when you come here, and like I think Geraldine knows, having like come to visit for a little while, and like we dragged her out to like the party and stuff. But when it's a huge party culture, right? Because a lot of New York City, what it was known for, it's very similar to what I think the original context of like Maverick Flats and like Don being at like his technical college and like how he started dancing was, except we don't see that as much on the West Coast nowadays, right? Culturally, like West Coast has become very tactical. It's become very deliberate, very like purposeful with a lot of the dance, to the point where I would say that because it's so codified, it's very there's so many structures and systems in place, right? To where it doesn't feel as organic as maybe it could have. Whereas when I moved to New York, like I'll tell you guys, like it's such a big paradigm shift for me because like in Texas there was no such thing as like partying in order to be a freestyle dancer. The only way that you could be a freestyle dancer was if you battled, right? And that was how you made a name for yourself, right? And luckily, because there's not any lockers in Texas, like I mean, I'm not discrediting the system and I'm not discrediting the scene because that's my home scene and that's how I came up. But as long as you had foundation, more specifically, if you had locking or Campbell locking, because nobody else knew how to respond to you, you'd probably make it pretty far. And in any sort of, and like, there were no specific styles apart from like popping, categories, and breaking, because those were the only two styles that at that time they had like practitioners in Texas that could do it, right? Nowadays, you do have like more house dancers, you have more hip hop freestyle dancers, but even now, like, there would not realistically ever be a Campbell locking category in Texas at all in that scene, right? So the beauty of it, though, and you'll have to keep me honest because I'm kind of going into the other topic now, like what Geraldine was talking about with the All Styles battle. But we could get to like the actual theory of it and stuff and approach that in a second. But I think the way that like being able to have that paradigm shift from, okay, in order to be a freestyle dancer, you had to battle, versus coming here and people literally don't do any moves in the club, no techniques, but they're just dancing, right? Like they're just letting the music move them. That was such a huge difference in like how to approach like dance as a whole. Because like I think Shale, you were saying like, what is the difference? And this was earlier what you were talking about. Like, what is the difference between us dancing in a battle versus in a cipher versus with our friends at a session, right? versus a performance, right? A stage performance, right? Each of those different contexts, I think, have different intentions that you have to communicate with your dance. Even if it is in the context of like Campbell locking or whatever other art forms you guys are doing, right? Like if you're doing house, if you're doing choreography, if you're doing like breaking, etc., right? Like that intention should be communicated within whatever context you're dancing with, right? So this is where I bring it back full circle and tell you guys that when I came to the clubs and I started trying to go out with some of the street dancers here in New York, they thought I was whack, bro. Like, cause when I would go to the clubs, I'd go up to like for me, I'm a straight guy, so like I'd go up to a girl and I'd be like, that's like this was not the most. It did not have the most riz at that time. So in order to actually like, or even with other guys, right? Like if I'd go up to them, like the only people that would like reciprocate that energy were people who are like, oh, they might be from the older generation, right? Like I was saying earlier, like some of the folks who are like the same age as like Buddha Stretch, or like maybe like they were trained in Campbell locking at some point, or they grew up watching Soul Train and they saw it on TV, or they met Don in like some of the lockers when they came to perform here in New York. Then those folks would appreciate it, right? But for the longest while, like people my age, like the new generation, everybody's like, oh, that's cool, but he's that weird kid, like dancing in the corner. So, but I think it was a good experience, right? Because that's why, like, gradually, and like I said, if you come to New York, most even choreo kids, like, they all know house here. Like, and I think going to Vancouver, I was saying, like, people are very much appreciate house as well, right? But just because there's a more prominence of, like, that club culture that still exists here in this scene, like, it's a good context to, like, show people, like, okay, you're not over here just doing pas de bourrées the whole time. You're not over here just doing, like, locks and points or, like, all this stuff. But, like, you really have to, like, strip away the vocabulary that you use, like, that you think and that you associate with the dance, and really focus on, like, okay, those, like, very, like, fun, really rudimentary, like, internal dance type things. Like, even if I'm just swaying back and forth, if I'm rocking, right? Like, how do these things, like, translate into creating what we call form, right? And I invite you to start thinking about the dance in that perspective, that it's like, oh, like for a lot of lockers, like Scooby and Don, they were what we know and what we consider in the culture as straight lockers, right? Where their upper body was very stiff while they danced, right? A lot of the technique comes from the appendages, right? Like being able to do stuff with my arms, doing stuff with my legs, but not really focusing on like my shoulder. Well, with the exception of Don doing the shake, and lock, shake, and lock. That was like the only internal movement that like he really like very purposefully did with his body, but he wasn't going over here like rocking his body like the people on the East Coast whenever they dance, right? Or like bouncing, right? The only bounce that we have is maybe like that up rock, right? While we march, right? Campbell locking, like at its core, before the contributions of like the other like Campbell lock dancers, it was just an upper body dance, right? It was just, you would walk around and you do stuff with your upper body. You do like the splits because Don was like inspired by the Nicholas brothers, or he'd do like a knee drop because he was inspired by Tina Turner, and whenever she would perform and he'd see her performing on TV, right? So those types of things were just like things that, or like Hambone. Like when he would do Hambone, like that was just him like copying his lineage, right? His lineage of having come from a family with a Southern background, a Southern tradition, right? Because that comes from Juba, right? So I think these conversations, to come full circle, makes it that the dance underneath your dance should be just as important. How you naturally think about music, even if you strip away all the stuff that you think you've been taught, that you have to do, you actually don't, right? Like even if I'm just here, and I like if Tosh came, you guys already know, like she's really big on like the two-step, right? And when I first started learning, I'm like, how the hell do you do like the two-step? And, like, how do you make it look good, right? It's just a basic move, right? But I think that relationship with simplicity, less is more, actually lends itself to a lot of beauty in the at least within Campbell locking, right? Other dances, fine. Like, I don't know if Popper's going to love it that much, or, like, with all the intricacies that they do. But, like, I would say, especially within Campbell locking, given that the lock comes from a mistake of the robot shuffle, which in and of itself is just a two-step, right? So, like, it's just a two-step where you're kind of swinging, and you're swinging your arms, you're swinging your upper body ever so slightly. Just he didn't know how to do it right, so that's why the lock happened. But yeah, I don't know if that's helpful. Hopefully, some of it is. But as far as like the dance underneath the dance and like how you naturally listen to music, right? This is where I'll go into what Matthew and Geraldine were talking about a little bit. where I would say listen to music that you like, right? Like, do you guys like? And this is where I will invite you to interrupt me and contribute your thoughts. Do you listen to funk for fun? Like outside of locking? Like, right? Like, I'm on that mode, but like, I'm interested to hear like what y'all think. Like,
I guess for me, like, I don't know, I didn't really listen to it before locking, and then now I have like, I enjoy, I think, like a decent amount of funk songs, but I wouldn't say it's like my top listen genre. And even while practicing, sometimes I kind of like just like do like random songs a lot more than I do just like straight funk the entire time.
I vibe with that. I'm very much the same. Like, but I'm not gonna bias anybody. If you have like different thoughts, like Matthew or Geraldine, that you want to share, you can. If not, like, I'm happy to keep yapping. But
So funk is the number one music style, I guess, or genre I listen to. But I don't know, like, because there's different types of funk too. Because some of like the classic funks, like I honestly don't like James Brown. Sorry, majority of James Brown song, I'm just like, no, sorry. I know as a locker, I shouldn't say this, but sorry. I like other types of funk. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna get us so much hate right now.
now, Matthew, I'm gonna interrupt before you say anything, but I just had a conversation when I was catching up with Tosh, or actually, I think she said this not during our conversation, but like the Foolish Family had like a call with her this Sunday, and I think she was talking about like she grew up in the time where like New Jack Swing, like early '90s hip hop, etc. Like when that became more prominent is when she was dancing. So she said very similarly the same thing that you just said, where she wasn't really like yes, James Brown is culturally important, right? But the whole point, and this is where, like what we were talking about earlier, it's really important, is that the music is the command, but the music is meant to change and grow. Hence why the dance changes and grows. It's not supposed to look like the way that Don and Scooby and like all the original like Campbell Lock dancers did this dance and practiced Campbell locking, right? At least, again, a lot of people, like everything I say is like from, it's either inspired by my lineage of teachers and the folks that I've been inspired by, or from my personal experience, right? So different teachers are going to have different opinions on this, but at least from the way that the Foolish Fam, we've been approaching it, I'd say listen to the stuff that you like. Like, even if you're over here like listening to Doechii and trying to lock to Doechii, I think that's very valuable, right? Like being able to like discover like what is your personal relationship with the music that allows you to like form generate, right? The different ways that your body naturally responds to the music, put that technique on top. Right? Like the beauty of Campbell locking is, like we said earlier, it's all upper body, right? But this stuff can all happen on top of this stuff. Or like this stuff. Like, right? Like it's not mutually exclusive. So anyways, just validating what you just said, because I felt the same way and I was like, am I a like fake? Like am I like a wannabe that's like really like I don't belong here? But like high key, whenever I get James Brown in battles, I'm like, oh. But yeah, so Tosh said the same thing, so I think we're valid. Matthew, I'm opening the door, or Ellis, if you guys want to share as well.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, before that, I like that I still listen to music. Like
that's fair, man.
The reason, like the whole reason I started listening to funk was because of locking, and I hated hip hop. I was like, this is a hip hop, so I'm gonna listen to that. And I started locking, and I started listening to more funk. And then I got into house because I started like learning house from Haruki and UBC, and I started listening to disco because I started learning whacking. So I'll be honest, I feel like my music taste is always linked to my dance, wherever dance I'm doing. Which honestly kind of also makes me feel like a fraud. Because I'm like, damn, do I actually just hate music? I'm just like lying to myself.
We all
like,
gaslight ourselves once we become dancers.
Yeah, like, am I gaslighting myself? Is this manipulation? What's going on? Yeah.
No, I'm on the same vein on that one. So I agree with you. And I think And if you're interested in like the All Styles application, right? Like fortunately, the lineage of the music, based off of what Matthew was saying, it helps, right? Like I don't know if Tosh did the thing when she came to teach y'all. I thought it was really cool when she played like there's a song called the Backstabbers by the OJs. It's used in a pretty commonly or more popular like TikTok remix of like a Jersey Club Backstabbers remix. But if you listen to them back to back, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I can play it for you all on the call, or if you want, I can just send it and then like you can listen to it later. But I think it's really cool when she did that when she came to teach for Get Lifted in New York, because it shows the lineage of like a lot of these songs that they're used nowadays, but they get remixed, right? Like in a lot of these samples, I'm not an expert on all of this, so I'm not gonna pretend to be. So if anybody has like more musical questions, like on the sampling and DJing and stuff, I'll direct you to someone else because I'm not an expert on that. But like as a dancer, from a dancer perspective, I think it's cool. Like if you don't vibe with like the hip hop music or like more like derivative like music forms, right? Like just being able to appreciate that, like, okay, you had soul, which gave way to funk, like in R&B, but then like a lot of the R&B, a lot of the house is like, okay, your funk gave way to like disco, right? But then disco gave way to like your house, and then your like also like your funk also gives way to early 90s hip hop, right? Like in more of like those samples and the way that they use those. I feel like if you look for those while you dance to those songs, you might find that music resonates more with you, and a lot of the fundamentals that you learn from Campbell locking, right? Because like even in Campbell locking, we always hear teachers say like listen to the bass, right? Like bass is such a big deal for funk, right? In order to give that like even Tasha always talks about like the bass, and like I know my teacher always did because he learned from like her lineage too. But like I think without the bass, it's a little hard to have those stops, right? Because especially if you're locking to disco, it's not that you can't lock to disco, but like disco musically just doesn't have like that groundedness. It's supposed to be very like up, floaty, high, right? That's why whackers love it, because it's like there's just so much energy to play with, right? And like I think similarly with house, like I think a lot of Campbell lockers, I know at least for me, right? Some people who are more musically gifted and just like naturally grew up with it around them, like it like hits a little bit more. I had to learn to like house because of New Yorkers, and that's all they play. It's either hip hop or house in like all styles battles. There's like very very rarely do you get funk, right? So like I always felt like house was like one of those things where it wasn't grounded, right? So it was hard to like, oh, like I'm gonna look like, at least for me, like hence why I started calling our session like the Foolish Funketeers, right? For a number of reasons, but like I always felt foolish because I was like, oh, I'm gonna like like with like the house music. I'm like, there's all this stuff going on, but I'm just like posing. Is this what's supposed to happen? Like, is this gonna resonate with people? And I think those thoughts like started going away when I realized two things. Number one, okay, I don't need to learn house, but I should probably learn to have a connection with house, right? What are the things that make me appreciate this music? Because I like listening to it, but I just didn't know what I liked listening to. And like I think Geraldine, you talked about earlier, like the clarity of like what I'm hearing, how do I translate that to my movement, right? So I didn't know how to do that. Like when I first got here, I was like, dang, if all of these battles are gonna be like this, I'm gonna stay away from all these like house functions. Like I'll go to the club and like try and like learn how to dance with people, but like I don't know how to like do this in a battle context with like Campbell locking, right? But yeah, I mean, it got better, luckily. And I'm not saying like your relationship with it, you just have to like parse it out, unfortunately. Like, especially for me, the reason is I didn't grow up listening to a lot of house music, right? But if you grow up with it, then you have a better relationship. Or the more you listen to it, like you can parse it out and see. But the cool thing is that with a lot of house tracks, if you really break it down, you slow down the track and then like you listen for like the sample, it is funk. Or it is something that like is more recognizable from a theoretical Campbell locker, right? So hopefully that helps, like from that regard. But I'm happy to pause if there's any like thoughts like similar to.
Can you send us that song that you were talking about? Because Tash never taught us that. The one together, but yeah.
Here, I'll play a sample.
Or if you have it, you can just play it.
Sample real quick. If it doesn't come through well on this, then fine, we'll cut it out. But if it does, then like I'd rather like see that's why like this is the perfect use of Office Hours. So let me see. So I have OJ's Backstabbers.
Share screen right now.
Here we go. So this is the original song, right?
It does not come off. Can you believe it?
I can't hear very much.
I can't hear any of it, yeah. It does not come through well.
It's not coming through? Okay. Here, I'll just send y'all. So, let me do it in the group chat real quick. Because I did have it. I think, who did I send it to? Did I send it to David? Because we were talking about this in session the other day, too. Aha! I found it. Perfect. So, I'm just going to drop these in the group chat so y'all can check it out as homework. No.
Come back next week to check.
Yeah. Oh, so the original is OJ's Backstabbers, and then the link I'm sending you is the SoundCloud remix to the Jersey Club version, right? But if you notice, like, I think the funk one is actually kind of hard to dance to regardless because of the way that the timing is with the instrumentation. But then it gets even harder, obviously, with like Jersey Club, right? Because then how do you find the stops with the music that just has like high energy, right? So I think for y'all, like if you ever come to New York too, like another version that's very similar is like Light Feet music, right? Because at least for me, like I didn't know how to like dance to that, but I always felt like, especially like when I would watch those people dance, like or the New Yorkers dance when I was back in Texas, I always felt like that up energy was very similar to what we have in Camelocking, right? So I think Jersey Club is very similar, that it has a very high upward energy versus a downward energy, which is like downbeat focus, like in hip hop, and like hip hop music is very like downbeat, downbeat, downbeat. Whereas like funk, there are downbeats and we do have that. But I think like most notably, like people like Shabba-Doo were very like happy with using like the ands or the upbeats as they trained and as they would like teach people, right, with different combos. And I think nowadays we see some of that because some of the techniques just naturally bring upbeats into question. So like when you do your stop and go, how do you like vary your stop and go and like do stuff with it? It's interrupting, right? So I think like the idea of interrupting and using those like like the syncopation that comes with an upbeat focus in music, that gives you a lot more that you can play with. So this is more geared towards like your all styles stuff. Like you can do it in funk. You don't have to, right? It just depends on like what you hear and what you want to like translate into your dance. But yeah. Wait, what am I missing? So we were saying, keep me honest here. So I know there was like an all styles thing. There was dancing to different types of music outside of funk, and then there was also like just being able to slow down, right? Am I hitting all the main points?
You did the culture for Shale, and then Matthew. I totally forgot what yours was.
Damn. Okay.
Being yourself, right?
Yeah. Embracing yourself, I guess, when dancing. There you go.
Okay, we've been touching on that, so good. Okay, I didn't completely ignore it. So I think what I was saying earlier about like dance to stuff you actually like, that's very important. But then also, and like, this is where it is our job as New Gen to do this. To like, and I think this is to cover myself. I'm going to quote Tosh. So whenever we talk, and like whenever she teaches, the idea is that we learn the rules and master the rules so that you can break the rules, right? It's a very different opinion than I think other like scenes and other styles and even other elders within Camelocking, right? But what I've always erred towards that side because my technique was never the strongest, but like my character was pretty strong. And I think talking to other American Camelockers, like Little B has said the same thing, right? Like he told me, he was like, yeah, like half of my battles when I first started battling were like character based. And I'm like, oh really? Like I didn't actually, when I would watch his, like I remember he was a big inspo for me and I was like, oh, I never knew that you felt like that, but I see what you're talking about. But it's not like, like when I would watch it, it's not like his technique was like bad. It's just the way he used it was different, right? But I think you have to find what your happy medium is with what you're comfortable doing and what makes you feel like you're still doing Camelocking, right? and this is a question that I posed to some of like the Foolish fam here in New York with one of our sessions recently. It was like, there's no right or wrong answer to this question, but to you personally, based off of what you've learned about this art form, right? And this is a very personal question. So like, if you want to answer, you can. You don't have to. You can take this home and just like soul search with it, right? What makes something Campbellocking, right? The textbook answer, just so that you have a starting point and you can start parsing it out personally from there, is it depends on who you ask, but Don, being the creator, his view is always take my moves and make it yours, right? Can't nobody beat you at being you. So long as you're doing those basic fundamentals, the 7 or 8 things that we always talk about with Campbellocking, no matter how you use them, you're Campbellocking, right? Whereas some people, right, like if you were going to ask like, I don't know, like there's different teachers who very obviously, like in different scenes, who very obviously have different standards for what would be Campbellocking, right? And that comes across with the way that people dance, right? Like that's why like people always say like, oh, there's a Japanese style, or there's a like Chinese, like Taiwanese style, or like there's an American style of locking, but not really, man. Like it's all Campbellocking. But the thing is like the different rules that we put on ourselves, right? Like what standard we hold for what maintains the integrity of Campbellocking, right? Is it just because I'm doing points, just because I'm giving myself 5, just because I'm doing like back claps or like my up lock and my locks? Like, does that make it locking? Do I always have to just be here? Or can I like be here? Can I be here? Do I have to be, can I be outside of the box, right? We always, that thing that people always say, like the box is like always lockers dance like right here. Like, stuff like that, really. Like, and what I'd invite you to do is, what helped me a lot on trying to parse that out and answer that question, especially coming to New York, right? Like I had huge imposter syndrome when I came here because everybody, since like this scene is so old or like so storied and so like there's a lot of history in New York, like I felt like when I left Texas and came here, I didn't feel like a Campbellocker anymore. Like quite frankly, right? Like until I really started parsing and learning other stuff and I brought it back home, then I really embraced it. I was like, oh, this is what it means to like be a Campbellocker. That like, at least for me personally, right? Like to take all that stuff that I was learning from these other styles and other art forms and bring it back, apply it to like my dance as a whole, and not separate the fact like I have to be a Campbellocker, I have to do house, I have to do light feet. It was like, let's put all this stuff together and see what happens. Like, so like I think the process of that is it's cringe, right? But like you have to do it. Like it's part of the process is you have to record yourself and you have to like be happy with the way that you dance, right? Like and here's, I think this touches on like some folks who were talking about their goals earlier, right? Like the only person who's gonna have to deal with your dance for the longest part, like the longest period of time, is you. I'll be honest with you, like it doesn't really matter if okay, I'm not gonna be disrespectful, but like some random guy likes your dance, or some random judge likes your dance is gonna pass you in the competition. I'll be really honest with you, right? Like, cause he's on like he or she or whoever is judging you, like they're only judging you for like one point in time for that one round, right? The person who's judging you for the longest period of time is always gonna be yourself. So if you're happy with the way that you dance, then kudos to you, right? Like that's something that like even some of the best dancers in the world haven't gotten to, right? But that's the essence of Campbellocking, because you have to embrace who you are before you can expect other people to like what you're doing. And even if they don't like what you're doing, screw it, man. The whole point of this style was that it started because of some guy making a mistake. Like, if he wasn't making a mistake in being himself, we wouldn't have this art form. But that's why I'm saying, like, really, and I hate it too. Like, I had to learn to love watching myself dance on like video and stuff. But that's why, like, I don't know if y'all know, but like my Instagram page was actually my Finsta for the longest time, and it was just where I would post like it was basically a journal for like how whenever I would do rounds and like I wanted to try stuff out, like I would just do it there, right? But you don't have to post it. Like, do whatever like archiving, documenting that you want to do. But I really find it's more important to do it like on a video format. Or at least, okay, you can do whatever you want, right? But the thing with mirrors is that it's instantaneous and you can't review it. You can't roll it back. You can't rerun it and watch it again, right? And dancing to a mirror keeps your dance in the box. It forces, like, it really forces you. Like, if you're trying to watch yourself, like, you're not, like, being, like, focusing on the feeling of the music. You're focusing on the visual and how it looks. You're also not focusing on being able to interact with the entirety of the space around you, right? Because your focus is here, right? So I think video has a similar problem if you don't conscientiously make sure you're navigating the whole entirety of the space, right? Because I used to dance like just to the camera too. So, but if you're able to, right, like whatever's within your means, I'd suggest. And it's cringe. It really is. Like I hate like for the longest while, like when I first started, I was like, I hate watching myself. Like even now, I'm like, that could, like people are like, that was a dope round. I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that, man. like, that was a little whack, but I'm glad that it just happened to like I sold it in the moment, so it worked. But I'm like, I don't know if I'd do that again. But I think being able to like have that feeling of confidence comes from like, okay, I've judged myself, so all these people, like, they can judge me, but I probably judge myself harder than like what they've done. Now, this is not to say that's a double-edged sword what I just said, so I'm gonna roll that back. Doesn't mean that you should like beat yourself up. Being able to judge yourself and like look at that footage also comes with the fact that you have to be honest and give yourself grace. Because if you're too hard on yourself, that'll really put you down the rabbit hole of like, oh, actually, it's undoing what we're supposed to be doing here of like trying to own your dance and like be yourself, right? So don't do this if you feel like you're the type of person where you're gonna like beat yourself up because you have this footage. But if you feel like you can be honest with yourself and compartmentalize and be like, okay, I don't like it, but that was still pretty cool. Like that I was able like it's also cool for purpose of like time stamping how you dance. Because like how you dance today is probably gonna be different from how you dance. What your interest in dancers is like in a month, in a year from now, in like 5 years from now. Like if I look at footage from how I danced, like when I thought I like learned everything in locking, and then now I'm like doing stuff, I'm like, oh, he was pretty good. He was actually better technically, like in 2019, 2020 than I am now. But I still like I stand by I like how I dance now, right? And it gives you that comparison and more data for you to work with. Just some thoughts. Like I said, you can, like, everything I'm saying can go in one ear and out the other if you want. Just take it with a grain of salt. Like, it's not, none of this is, like, gospel truth or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, hopefully, my goal is, like, some of it would be helpful. As, like, as someone who's navigating the journey together, like, and it is in the same boat, I'm just, like, I haven't been doing this for very long, right? Like, I don't know if you guys know. I just started, like, right before COVID. So that's like when I started, and the reason why I like really grinded was because during COVID I had nothing else to do. Like it was the world was shut down, so I was like, I guess I have time to learn this thing, and like also the other street styles that had teachers online, they were like charging money. Campbell locking at the time, because there wasn't a lot of Campbell lockers. Like most of the classes were free, so I was like, bet. But yeah, like I also did grow up liking like funk music too, but like you know, if we're talking about logistics here, it all just kind of like lined up perfectly. So I'm gonna shut up and pause and see if anybody has any thoughts to share off of the whole bunch of like stuff that I've been like droning on about. Because this is supposed to be like an exchange. So now that we've covered all our bases, I'm happy to just open the floor and like go back and forth. Like.
I just want to speak about the video thing. So I would say for me, I'm the latter person. So I'm still not at the point, and I don't know how to do it because, like, yeah, whenever I watch my videos, it like destroys me. And then I'm just like, I can't do this because it just like whatever confidence I had, I was like, no, it's like going down. The more I watch, I'm like, I can't. So like, I don't know. How do I flip that? Or is it possible to flip it? Because I can't, right? Even up to now, I can't record myself. It just destroys whatever confidence I built up.
I think, so this is the alternative. I just started with like what worked for me. But like a lot of people prior to, especially for the dancers who were dancing and like they didn't have like iPhones and like smartphones back then, they use like journals, right? Like if you really like want data, but maybe you don't really care for like watching yourself because it is cringe, right? Like sometimes, or like it can like you said, like for different people, like you have different impressions of yourself, right, from it. I think what I would suggest, and even regardless of if you do the video or the book, like the writing method, the diary method, or notebook, whatever, really ask yourself, how do you feel after you do the route, right? Like, were there moments that you felt more confident because you did something different, right? Was there a certain specific part of the music that you sat in with your dance that, like, I guess you hadn't before, or that maybe you'd done it before, but because this time it felt a little different, like for whatever XYZ reason, right? Like being able to write those things down, or like, okay, and this is a more literal approach. Like if you're someone who likes those like diary type entries, then that's good. But if you're someone who's like, oh, let me just list out all the things that I know and like different variations or like different combos and different things that I'm inspired by that I like in my dance, right? Then you can do it like that too, right? So, because like I know like one of my teachers from Lightfeet, his name is Isolo, he used to do that. Like he always, even when he teaches people, he always gets like a whiteboard out or like a piece of paper, and he'll draw, this is the Lightfeet formula. You have to do the tone wop, you have to do your tic-tac-toe, and finish with a lock-in or something. Like not saying that that's correct, but like he'll do it like with very literal, like, this is what I'm writing down, or this is like a combo that I created. Like it goes like this, this, and this, and like he'll write out like flip the shoe like this, then put it on your elbow, like stuff like that, right? So I don't know what type of like what you have to find what method works best for you in documenting these things, and then just kind of like run with it, right? But I think if I was gonna use a notebook, I personally would probably like be like, I don't know, I just felt off today because like earlier like work was terrible because my boss was like not very happy. So when I did this round, even though I liked the song usually, I really wasn't feeling it. Or like you know, like something like that, right? Like even if I was doing, I just found myself trying to do the two-step the whole time because I wasn't inspired to do anything else. Like you know, something like that. Like, or like for an example of a good entry, oh, I felt really good. Like, for some reason, even though, like, I always try and hear the bass in this one song, and I can't hear it, today, maybe the speaker that I was using was a little better, or, like, the park I was practicing in, or, like, the room I was practicing in was a little better, but I could finally hear the bass on this song, and, like, I felt like I was really connected. Like, you know, like, that would be an example of, like, a positive entry, right? Again, I yap, so my entries would probably be like essays long. Like maybe you guys are like more efficient, like how you capture your thoughts. Hopefully so. But I'd be like over here like writing like paragraphs, essay. That was a good takeaway. Like I'm glad you asked that because I know like that's not a method that works for everyone, right? So like writing things down, posting, or like not even posting, like just videoing. Having like a hard drive of like all your, or I see I'm a boomer again. Your iCloud with all the different like I use physical like hard drives for my videos and stuff. But like yeah, your iCloud storage, like you can look back and be like, oh yeah, like I like this, right? But yeah. Yeah, for you guys who don't know, I'm kind of, well, I'm not really old, right? Like, I'm, like, in my mid-20s. But, like, I feel like I'm a boomer because, like, for the Foolish Funk fam, like, here in New York, like, they were trying to convince me to do, like, a group chat for the longest time. And I was like, nah, they can just check the Instagram page for updates or, like, do the story. But they finally convinced me, like, around December to, like, and I was like, fine. And guess who's talking to himself in the group chat the whole time? Guess who? Nobody else uses it except me. So I'm like, I knew this was gonna happen. That's why it should just be the Instagram page. But I don't want to be a boomer anymore. So I was like, fine. I guess we'll do a group chat. Now I have to post like twice or 3 times the amount.
I feel your pain, Jason.
That's why I was like,
I'm
I
looking
knew.
at you, Matthew.
And like nobody reacts.
Whoa.
Now, just so that you guys know, I'm not throwing shade. Like, the New Yorkers are just like that, okay? Like, I had to learn this when I came here, but, like, nobody replies to anything. Nobody reacts. Like, we're lucky if people come through. But it's not because they don't want to. It's just, like, there's just so much going on. So it's, like, it gets lost. I love
So-
Tosh fam in New York. It's not I'm not throwing shade. I love everybody.
Yeah.
But like even with Tosh, like with the call with Tosh the other day, I was like, is anybody going to join this thing? Like, because nobody was like responding to like any of the polls to indicate like when they were available. And I was like, I hope people come because Tosh volunteered to call with. So yeah, it's just like that. Or like we'll post like even when we didn't have a group chat, I post on the Instagram page, and like maybe like 4 people would like the post about there being a session coming up, but like all 4 of those people were like not from New York. So I was like, is anybody gonna come to session today? And then like all of a sudden there's like 9 people that come to. I'm like, whoa, where did you guys come from? I'm happy you're here, but I'm like nobody. Like, but it keeps life interesting, is what I'll say. I'm just ranting, so please join in and rant with me, or like we can bring it back to like what we were talking about before.
I guess I was just wondering because the New York scene sounds like so different from what I know from Vancouver. How much do you see like those other styles that are like much more popular in New York, like Light Feet? Like, does that blend into the locking scene there at all, or is it like still pretty distinct?
Got you. That's a good question. So I'll answer your question in 2 parts. First, like which styles are popular, and then I can talk about the Light Feet stuff because that's the part I like a lot. So when you come here, you'll notice like house is pretty big because like of course like the lineage with like you have the Mop Top people here, like Mop Top Universal, like Stretch, Khalif, Ejo, all those like people. So like hip hop freestyle is starting to come back up. There was a while when I came here, there wasn't a lot of hip hop freestyle in the scene. You would think that there would be, right? Because y'all have a pretty like a lot of people who are very interested in it. But here, there was virtually none. Like there was like if you guys who know who Sibo is, he's also one of the Mop Top directors. His children were like the only ones that were like teaching. Well, his children and the Mop Top rotation people, like they were the only ones teaching like hip hop freestyle classes for a while. Now there's a lot of people because there's a lot of interest again, right? But I'd say house has always been pretty strong. Breaking is always strong. There's actually a very notable crump scene here that I didn't think, like, even when I got here, there wasn't a lot of crump folks. But now they're like, or that were active, that were outside, like, and publicly advertising and stuff. But now they're, like, very active. Vogue is pretty big here, right? Because Vogue is also from here. Whacking is getting pretty big now. Like, again, when I got here, like, there were maybe, like, some folks who were, like, it's always, like, historically, a lot of the styles have rich lineage and history here. But the thing is like it wanes in like the number or like the quantity of people participating in the culture, right? Like and this is where I'll kind of bring it back to like our style, right? Like with Campbell locking, there's always been people in New York that do Campbell locking, right? Like and historically, like you have Stretch. He even when you watch him do hip hop, you could tell he's a Campbell locker. Like even now that I know, I'm like, oh, like that the way he Campbell locks is influenced by his hip hop and is influenced by his Campbell locking, right? Like it's very like very connected, very blended, right? And I think in a way it's like pretty cool to see because it's like it's dance, right? Like, and I think that's how a lot of the folks here in New York, at least the older generation, they view it, right? If you ask Tosh, she says the same thing. It's like nobody was like just a Campbell locker. Nobody was just a popper. Nobody was just a breaker back in the day. Like based on the music, you learned it all. Like if you just happen to be going out and like going to the clubs and stuff, like people would just do stuff, right? Like Tosh can hustle. Tosh can do salsa. Tosh can do New Jack Swing. But like she's known for being a Campbell locker, but she's just a really versatile dancer, right? Whereas someone like Scooby-Doo, he's just a Campbell locker. Right? And that's cool too. But he knows because he's judged Just Debut. He's gone all over the world. He can recognize it. He's a good judge of like being able to distinguish like what's good in like the other like art forms that he's around. Right? So, oh yeah, I forgot popping. Popping's pretty big here. Like but it's different than the West Coast. West Coast, given that lineage comes from like a lot of the different disciplines and art forms that are associated with popping. Or like are done in the same spaces of popping, makes sense the West Coast is like that. But you'll notice that a lot of the, I guess, even with Campbell locking or like even newer styles that come after, most of the styles that originate from the East Coast have a lineage in electric boogie. So electric boogie is just how the East Coast interpreted all of the funk styles, right? So, but that made its way into breaking. That made its way into like hip hop freestyle. Hence why like with all the bounces and rocks and the party dances and stuff, like when you actually talk to people like Loose Joint or like Buddha Stretch, Link, etc., all these like OGs for hip hop freestyle, like Elite Force, Mop Top, etc., the way they approach hip hop is actually kind of like popping, because most of the like all the ticks, the waves, like the bounces, they just combine it with the party dances that they do, right? Now, I'm not gonna get into like hip hop modern meta because that's like a little different, right? But I will get into like the same vein of Electric Boogie found its way into Light Feet, which is why actually when you think about a lot of the origins of, well, okay, I'll put it like this. I very jokingly say this, but I'm also quite serious when I say this. Don Campbell was the first Light Feet dancer. Because the reason why I say that is because the scenes, and I'll explain myself a little bit more in a second, but like to answer your question directly, they are still separate scenes, right? Light Feet is Light Feet, but because it comes from New York, like it's very, this is the place that you are going to find it at its richest and like at its purest, but it's also going to thrive the most because it comes from this culture, right? Like it's part of people's, like people really, like when I got here, I didn't know how familial it is, but because they're like, it really did come from like from New York, and like people grew up with this, and like they built communities and like families based off of this. Like it's a very close, tight-knit community, which is why it's not that you can't learn Light Feet if you're not from New York, but it is more difficult because most of the resources are here, right? Like that, if you want to get it from the source and you want to get it the way that folks actually like learn and that they continue to evolve it, it's all here. Like, I mean, you have folks in Florida, you have folks in LA. Like, I know that like Natasha and like Natasha Gori and like a lot of the folks in like Vancouver, they were interested in it too. Like, you have folks in Asia, you have folks in Australia and in Europe that are interested, but like I'd say like it's always going to be its richest in New York City, right? But that being said, because there aren't a lot of lockers here, right? Like, there's still like, okay, again, like I said, a lot of lockers, just not a lot of active lockers from the older generations. Hence why Foolish Fam, we've been trying to build like more of the young generation, the new generation, right? Very similar to like y'all's Van City New Gen, right? So I think what I've been doing, or like what my flavor of locking is known as, is like light lock, because I've been fortunate enough to like learn enough of the fundamentals of Light Feet, but to really study and parse out what feels right when it comes to combining it with Campbell locking, right? But there aren't many people that, like, people are interested, and like people like Crybaby, like he's one of my mentors, like he's one of the ones who was like really encouraging that, because he also likes locking. Like he really likes how it looks. He appreciates dancers that use it, and he also appreciates like when dancers don't just copy people who do Light Feet who came up with it, but like they make it their own, right? So like same thing when I talked to Tosh about it when I first met her. It's like very much like the idea of can't nobody beat you at being you. Now that this culture and like so many of the teachers have passed a lot of stuff on to you, what are you going to do? How do you make it your own? And that's the way that I've been trying to do that. So, roundabout way of saying they are separate scenes, but the real ones know that because Light Feet in and of itself is very inspired by a multitude of things, right? Like hip hop freestyle, New Jack Swing, jazz, very important like connection. Because Campbell locking is also pulls so much from jazz, pulls so much from like soul and funk, like really like the essence of like those art forms as well as like that music. It's like, and a lot of the families for like people who did Light Feet, they grew up watching Soul Train, right? So naturally that influence comes through in how the dance is done, because like when you look at the way a lock it, like one of the more popular like moves is like when you finish, or like when you use punctuation and structure, create framework with your phrases in Light Feet, they use what's called a lock-in. But the lock-in is really functionally, like in the music, is used very similar to a lock or a double lock, right? Or like when we're keeping time, like keeping time is very similar to like a dance in Light Feet known as the bad one, right? So like being, or like even doing tic-tac-toes, that's basically just toe touches and keeping time in ham bone. Like, so for me, like all of Light Feet is just and they use knee drops, they use jazz splits, and then they use a little bit of breaking elements, right? Like they go on the ground, they do like threads, and then they do the needle thread thing where you jump over your leg while you're grabbing it, like that stuff. That's not like, but like Scramble Lock uses that in locking too, right? So like people who have breaking backgrounds use that in their locking, right? So anyways, that's my connection to like Light Feet. So I know you didn't ask that, but like that's why I think of it very similarly, and hence why I'm quantifying what I said with earlier. Don was the first Light Feet dancer, because who did hat tricks first? Don Campbell, right? Like he didn't do shoe tricks, fine, but like out of all the people who did hat tricks, who did hat tricks? It's Don. Like whether it was his apple cap or his bowler cap, right? So he did both. So yeah, so props, or like in Light Feet they call them clothing tricks, right? Because you can do shoe tricks, you can do shirt tricks, you can do hat tricks and stuff. But yeah, I'm nerding out, so I'm gonna pause. But like, if anybody was ever interested in that, that's like one of the things that I've been really like exploring a lot, like how to. It's not that you can't be powerful with Campbell locking alone, but because you can like really take advantage of the commonalities with the techniques and the movement sets, why not, right? Like you might as well, like at least in my opinion. So if anything else, the core of it is that in Campbell locking, the bass groove we have is the up groove, right? Ha ha ha. In Light Feet, it's the same. It's just tick tick tick. I'm doing a double bounce and I'm up rocking. Or rocking back. So even if you strip away all the moves, it's the same. The dance is the energy is the same. It's just the music that changes. Okay. Done yapping. I will invite if y'all have had any instances, and this is more like towards like the all styles battle, what music do you feel is most challenging to dance to? Not specifically to Campbell Lock to, but like to dance to in your own personal experiences. I'm listening, I'm just gonna walk away for a second.
Damn, we all go silent now, huh?
Can't. Oh, once I had Afro. That was very difficult.
Afro.
Yeah, Afro and an all style, and that was a train wreck. But I feel like out of all the alts, like hip hop is very easy for me to do locking to, because it's slower. Because I like slower locking funk songs. But I think hip hop is easy for locker. But yeah, Afro was very difficult, so I would say Afro.
For Afro,
I don't know if this is.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just gonna interrupt real quick. For Afro, you have to channel your inner Flocky. Okay, I'm done.
I'm not sure I have an inner flock. Yeah, I might have to find them. But yeah, I guess for me, it'd probably be like more electronic stuff, even on house, but like anything like even harder than that, like jungle or drum and bass. Like if that's playing, I'm just like, what? This is so fast. There's so many drums. There's so many sounds. Like, what do I do?
I think for me, it would be like hip hop or crump music. Like, because I dance mainly, and I dance and listen only to like the more up in the air songs, like funk. I guess house isn't really into that in that category, but I love house and funk and disco. And I sometimes love music. I feel like I listen to everything except those two genres of music. So I'm like, bruh, when you hear what, I'm like, what the hell do I do?
No, I agree. And here, I'll make a couple of notes. So it's okay to not have an inner Flocky. Have an inner Shale. And have an inner Geraldine, have an inner Matthew, have an inner Ellis, right? But the reason why I said that was because I remember, I don't know if you guys took the workshop. Maybe that's why I went over. But like I remember I took the workshop at VSDF and he was like doing. All right, wait, his judge demo was to Afro, no? You guys remember? It was, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember there being two instances. So I was like, I think one was at the workshop after the battles. And then I remember the other one was like the judge demo. But like, all that to say, I mean, how you listen to something like Afro, how you listen to something like drum and bass and EDM, how you listen to something difficult like Crump, right? Like, it's not so much that you have to do what people expect you to do when, like, or the conventional movements that are associated with those styles, right, of music. So, like, for example, like, if I have crumps or, like, crump music, I don't have to be stomping and jabbing or doing switches on people, but, like, which are, like, foundational moves, right? But I've seen Campbell Lockers. Well, there's a Campbell Locker in Florida. His name is Cafe Trey. I don't know if you can find the footage anymore. He might have stuff on YouTube, but I know for Instagram, I don't think he has it up anymore. But he was another one of Tasha's students where he would blend. Like, he really would, like, Campbell Lock. Like, because he was, like, one of those guys who would, like, Campbell Lock in, like, Red Bull dancer style and stuff. And, you know, like, Red Bull, they give you anything. Like you have to be ready, like, right? But, like, I remember he had tracks where he really got the room, like, riled up with, like, a crump track and as well as, like, a Jersey Club, like, track and stuff. But the idea is that we're not, and the beauty of Campbell locking is that we're not bound by any timing. Like, yes, if you have learned with certain teachers and stuff, they give you the ways of timing to think about things. But we really don't have, like, a specific way that you have to dance according to the time, right? So, like, light feet is a style where I would say, like, there's a specific timing to it. That if you don't understand it and how to apply it to different time signatures, then you're basically gonna, like, there's no way, right, to do it. Like, or, like, unless you focus more on the skills, right? You can focus on the timing of a given art form, or you can focus on the skills associated. For Campbell locking, we just have the skills. Like, so if you just make, like, you do your 7 fundamentals and you be yourself in between, like, I think that allows, there's a lot of freedom there that you can explore, right? And it doesn't have to be, this is something that Hurricane said when I first came to New York that I didn't understand for the longest time. But maybe you guys are more mature than I am in your journey with dance, that maybe this makes more sense. But he always said, the idea is not to be clean, but the idea is to have clarity with your movement. I'm going to pause and let you sit on that for a second, and I'll repeat it again. Don't go for clean, go for clarity. Do you have any thoughts about that? Or before I tell you, like, what my thoughts
They
are.
look so confused.
I'm not wise enough yet.
Don't worry, me too.
Is it like communicating what you're wanting to communicate, but without worrying about your foundations being clean, if that interferes with, like, what you're trying to communicate?
I think that's a good way to approach it. Yes, that is a good way of articulating that. So, anybody else?
Yeah. Is that clarity more about intention rather than technique? So more like about, it doesn't matter what you really do or what moves you do, but as long as you put intention into that move and it's very obvious and like, oh, that's what you want to do, then it doesn't really matter.
It's a good one. Hold on to that too.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts as Matthew.
Okay. I think both. I think both what Shale said and what Matthew said, because sometimes, right, like, the way we learn things, because we learn it in its original context, or, like, we have teachers who are very, like, very sure, very confident, and we haven't done the self-exploration ourselves, right? Like, I would say we kind of trap ourselves with, like, how we think it has to be done, right? But Hurricane and Firelock and, like, Lil B, like, that whole lineage of Campbell locking, they're a good example of, like, what it means to, like, not to know the rules so well, like Tosh was saying, that you know how to break them in a way that's very tasteful and tactful, right? So breaking the rules does not mean, like, oh, I am dishonoring Campbell locking, but it means that I'm taking, like, at least the way I approach it, right? And again, you guys, like, I think I would invite you to soul search and, like, see what it means to you, to, like, what levels you would, like, feel comfortable taking it to. But I would say being able to explore and know what you want with the dance and how you understand things to be, how do you apply that to the music? Because this is where, like, what we were saying earlier, the music is the command is always going to be your default, right? If the music is not telling me to be, like, up, lock, Scooby-Doo, like, Scooba, ha, ha, right? Like, if it forces me to, like, push and pull with the techniques to fit it into a different time signature or a different instrumentation, then beautiful. That's what it's supposed to do, right? Like, nothing, and this is where the clean part comes in, right? So like Matthew, what you were saying, like the intention is really important because like even if it's not conventional or it hasn't been done before, if we focus on what's been done before, nothing's gonna be interesting, right? This is where like I think with Tosh and like with a lot of like the lineage here in all across all of North America, not even North America, like across the Americas, because when I went to Colombia I saw the same thing happening, right? Like we're more adventurous with how we approach the art, like with this form. And when we say form, it's like technique, right? Like approaching like the different systems that like the OGs and the elders have shared, right? And it's not to say like, of course, like Scooby might not always vibe with like how I'm going to dance with like Campbell locking the afro, but that's okay, right? Because while we love and we respect Scooby, whenever I do like when I do a Scooby Doo, it's like thank you Scooby, right? Or when I do my Skeeter Rabbit, when I do Skeeter Rabbit, I'm like thank you Tony Gogo, right? Right? Or if I'm doing like my Witchers, I'm like thank you Demita Joe Freeman and thank you Fluky Luke. But just because they did it a certain way doesn't mean I have to do it a certain way, right? And the intention with the music is that the music that they danced to in the past was different from what I'm dancing to now. So it has to change. It has to, like, if I do it the same way, then I'm not honoring what they were doing, which is just responding to the music, right? What Don was doing, right? When he created the dance, he was just, okay, the music is doing this, that's why I'm going to stop. Or the music has two basses, that's why I'm going to double lock, right? So I think being able to honor that, right? Like two things. From a technique perspective, like Shale was saying, and then Matthew, what you were saying with intention, it's a little bit of both. And you have to find personally what that means, especially as you go into all styles battles. But what that means is in your training, like I said earlier, I'm going to be like a broken record, but practice the different music. See what it looks like when you do practice. Like, what do you like when you apply, like, what parts of the music in hip-hop do you like applying your wrist roll to? That you like applying your points to, right? Do you like applying your locks to? Do you modify your locks to make it look more like a bounce, like the hip-hoppers, right? Do you modify your Scooby-Doos to make it look really more like a kickball change, right? Like a traditional kickball change. Like, and do you use it to travel more? Are you more stationary with it, right? Like all of those different questions. Do you play with levels? Like even your, like one thing I would say is like my stop and go, beautiful for all styles competitions. Because no matter what the music is, it gives you time to break down. And if you think about what the stop and go is, it's just playing with this two-step and layering on top. So like all those people that like, oh, like their art forms and like their expertise, they focus more on like how complex you are. Like you don't have to thread, you don't have to do all this like, oh, I'm doing like all these dime stops and like tuts and stuff. Because in a stop and go, I'm showing you like there's a displacement in my footwork and like I'm changing positions, but I'm also layering on body opposition. I'm also layering on like my like upper body in different permutations, right? With my either my wrist rolls or like with like my like more like closeness to my body, right? Depending on what the music is telling me to do, you could do a lot with a stop and go. Or same thing with like your witch ways. My teacher always said like your witch ways, like he never used it traditionally like a witch way, like going back and forth like the pendulum, but it's more like, oh, when I want to signal that the energy is changing in the music or in a round, or like I want to change the focus of my orientation, I can use the like one or two one or two witch ways, and then like use that to reorient, right? So different people have different uses for different techniques for different parts of the music, different genres of music, right? So you have to discover that on your own. What I will say is if you feel there's a section that's especially calling for body rolls, like I always like to use my like wrist rolls to like activate and do like a body manipulation into like my body rolls, right? Or let's see, like a lot of people like to use points as like isolation activation. So it's like, oh, I could use like my point and be like, shoom, boom, right? Or like I can what else can you do? Stuff like that, right? So you just have to think out of the box of like, actually, okay, a good rule of thumb, high key, would be like, what would lockers not do? And then you can do everything that lockers wouldn't do for the music that you're getting in an all styles battle, right? And that's the beauty, or not the beauty, that's the sad truth of why, as lockers, people who don't come from locking, they think that it kind of limits you if you adhere. I've heard a lot of this from like a lot of like new gen who are in other styles and they see lockers. they think that, oh, because lockers have to look a certain way, it's so restrictive, right? But the whole point of Campbell locking is that you should be able to do everything you want to. That's why each of the individual, like, original Campbell lock dancers or original lockers, they all look so different, right? Toni Basil didn't look like Rerun when she was dancing. Rerun didn't look like Shabba-Doo, right? Like, Shabba-Doo didn't look like, like Greg Campbell Lock Jr., like, right? Like, they all had their own unique way of approaching the art form, right? So should we, right? At least, again, like, don't get in trouble by saying this, and then, like, all your elders in Vancouver, like, wherever you go, like, at a judge, like, battle, they're like, yo, who have you been talking to? That's, like, wrong. But, like, just know that from this lineage of Don Campbell, that's the approach that we should be taking, right? Like, if you're serious about, like, approaching it from a origin standpoint and the closest to, like, how he did it, which is, like, what Tosh and, like, Hurricane have done, and, like, my teacher did, like, Trouble he did, so that's the way I would suggest it. So. All styles! But Heike is really, it's scary, though, because, like, I'll be honest with you, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't tell you guys, like, I told you I started in all styles, but as soon as I got here, like, I tried doing a couple of all style stuff, but since, when was it? I'd say August of 2023 was the last time that I did all styles, and then, or open styles, right? I think open, like, you guys know the difference between all styles versus open styles, right? In all styles, there's an expectation that the practitioner or competitors generally have, like, good fundamentals and training in all the styles. And that's, like, that's part of the judging criteria. Whereas open styles means that, like, the organizers expect that you, like even if you have, like, training in other styles, beautiful, but, like, that's not an expectation. It's like, come as you are, right? Like, it's kind of like the idea of open styles. But I know that both terms have been used, like, interchangeably a lot, but theoretically, like, that's, like, the distinction between, right? Anyways, that's a tangent. I didn't do open styles since August of 2023, and I just started doing it again these past 2 weekends. So I know it's really scary. I'm in the same boat as you. like, especially, like, these New Yorkers who, like, they grow up and they do, like, all the different styles. I'm like, how am I going to Campbell lock against this flexor, bro? And, like, this breaker's just gonna do burns at me the whole round. How am I supposed to respond to it? But that's the beauty of it, right? And I think that exchange between different art forms is what you need, right? Like, I know for y'all, like, you have a pretty strong locking community, or that there's a lot of, like, practitioners in Vancouver and in the larger PNW area. But I was telling, like, my Foolish fam here in New York, I was like, if you want more friends to dance with, you have to show people why Campbell locking is cool. And the way that you do that is by battling, or, like, showing people, like, the possibilities of Campbell locking, right? Not that it's just some, like, antique dance or like some old dance. Like, no, it's something that, like, if you know how to use it right, it's, like, it's so powerful, right? Like, it has so many possibilities, right? Because Geraldine knows this story, but, like, when I first started Foolish Fam, like, the only reason why we actually had, like, we kept going was because there was this guy that kept pulling. Oh yeah, like, you guys met him, Peanuts or David. The only reason why he came was because he saw me battle at, like, one of the battles. He was like, "Yo, that guy looks like he's having the most fun out of everybody." So he wanted to have fun too. So, like, now, long story short, now, like, if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have kept going with, like, our session and stuff. So, like. But that's where it comes from, right? Like, maybe you guys will have a chance to show people, like, oh, based off of the way that Shill is, like, using this style, based off the way Matthew, Ellis, and Geraldine, the way that you use Campbell locking, maybe you use it in ways that, like, someone who comes from, like, the new gen, who hadn't thought about Campbell locking, you could inspire them to do it too, right? But that's not, like, there's no pressure, right? Like, if that happens, it's beautiful. It's the cherry on top. But, like, being you, like, it has a whole bunch of, like, cool... The point I'm trying to get is, like, it has a whole bunch of, like, things that maybe you didn't think of that could happen because of you just choosing to be you and being comfortable. Like, that uncomfort in the all styles, like, or the open styles context of whatever music, that's the beauty of it. Because even you don't know what you're gonna do. Like, I always thought that was the coolest part, though. It's like people were like, "Oh, like, what are you planning? How are you gonna approach this battle? I'm like, bro, I don't know. Like, I have no clue what to expect. Like, I don't know what the DJ is gonna play. But like, hey, let's just go with the flow and see what happens, right? And like, you might surprise yourself. That's why I'm saying, like, having the, like, again, if you're not a footage person, ignore. But like, if you have footage for it, like, you're feeling, you might feel like you're super self-conscious and you're not hitting stuff, and it feels really like cringe as you're dancing around. But that's because we get in our own heads. Like, I've actually had rounds where I felt so cringe and I was like, I didn't do anything right with the music in that round. And then everybody was like, yo, that was so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? I was just like gyrating my hips. That didn't feel right. I had no clue what to do, right? But, or like there are rounds where it's like, oh, I was just trying to do camera locking stuff and it didn't feel like any of it was hitting. But then on the footage, maybe it's because the adrenaline was pumping so much and I wasn't able to like properly assess how I was feeling in the round. But like I was like, oh, I hit more stuff in the music, like happy accident, like right, like so, like that stuff like that. I'll tell you, like it boosts your confidence, right? Like even the battle I did this past weekend, like I did like a little like lean, like in the middle of like my I was doing some toe taps with like my. I was mixing it with light feed, but I was doing like some keeping time, wrist roll, toe taps. I heard, or like I think, I didn't know if the music was for sure gonna drop out, but like I had a inkling, like instinctively, so I kind of did like a light feed move where like I leaned over and like I stopped. Like for me, it functions like a lock. So I was like, okay, like since a lock is good for stopping when the music stops or cuts out, then maybe this move will be good too. I didn't know that it was gonna hit right on like that, so I did it on accident, but it worked really well with the music, and then everybody went crazy, and I was like, oh, well, there you go. Happy accident. So, dare to take risks, right? Like, I think what Tosh said when she came to New York was like, if you're afraid to make mistakes, then you're actually stopping yourself from figuring out new things that you thought you like, that you maybe never knew you could do, right? Like, same vein that we were talking about earlier. Don made a mistake, and he made this dance. What can you do with your mistakes? Maybe your mistakes will even like elevate it further, right? So, yeah, that's all. So some all styles, mentality, strategy, theory, approach, whatever. Let's see. What other questions can I ask y'all? Because this was inspired by like, what music do you find hard to dance to? Oh, let's do this. So, if you want to do it with me now, you can. You don't have to. I'm probably gonna be really lazy and not get up while I'm doing it, but I'll show you what it would be. Right? This is a cheat code. I'm saying it like that. If anybody watches this, like, or like, listen, if you tell them about this later, then don't call it a cheat code. But it is kind of a cheat code. There's a popping teacher here in New York who he's pretty famous. I think he knows some of the folks there in Vancouver as well. But his name is Castro. He's not here in New York right now, but he's traveling. But I remember I've only taken one class with him, right? But this approach was very similar to something that what Hurricane made me do during one of our training sessions, like back when we had regular locking sessions. Like, but I think I'll tell you what Hurricane said first, and then I'll go into the more systematic approach with what the popping teacher did. But an exercise that you can do is focus on dancing on the rhythm versus dancing on, or like two modes in a lab, right? Like alternate between dancing purely on the rhythm of a song versus like focusing on instrumentation, vocals, etc., right? So within popular battles, I think oftentimes we think that we have to dance on all the stuff that we're hearing, right? Like, oh, like if I'm not hitting this trumpet, if I'm not hitting this like bass drum or like bass guitar, or I'm not hitting this person's like vocals, that I'm not dancing properly to the music. That's actually the furthest thing from the truth, right? Because before you can show people, and again, take it with a grain of salt. If you agree with this, then you can do it. If you don't agree with it, then fine. But like Hurricane's like opinion is that you can't show people that you can hit all that complicated stuff and that you have mastery over it if you can't show them that you have the basics down first. So like that's why like they always say like, and I know it's kind of annoying. Like it might be annoying. I like it a lot, but like I know I can empathize with people who think it's annoying when people like the OGs and elders, they always say, yeah, just focus on your two-step. But there's a truth in that, right? Like because this, like we were saying earlier, simple is more, less is more, is really important, especially when you don't know the music. So like being able to dance on rhythm, half of Hurricane Style, if you watch him dance, like in all these competitions, is just doing cool stuff with rhythm. And then because he's so solid with his rhythm, he can choose the things that he wants to highlight in the music as he hears it, right? Because he's so confident that he knows how to dance and just be himself within the rhythm. So what do we mean by rhythm? This is where I'll go into like and this is like one of the things that we do in our guided ciphers for Foolish Fam. But I think it'll be helpful. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know if it'll be helpful for y'all. But the popping teacher Castro, he was thinking about funk music in 5 pockets of timing. But it doesn't just apply to funk. So that's why I think it's really useful to share, right? When we say pocket, everybody like always has like weird like responses like, oh, pocket is like how high or like how seated you are and like as you're dancing. Like yes, that's true in certain like contexts, right? I really think the answer of pocket depends on like what context you're talking about. But as far as pockets of timing, especially when you don't know music, if you think of most conventional music, let's say it in the within funk, we practically have like 4/4 as a time signature all the time. So if you count out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Like I think there are 5 ways that you can think of timing just purely based on rhythm that like help you to still dance and still do things like that are interesting, like or whatever you feel in the music, but you have like a very grounded approach as you do it, right? So the first pocket of timing is if you think of a bar like we were talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you hit it at the beginning of each musical phrase. So I would use my fundamentals, like if I'm being very literal with you guys, like with Campbell locking, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So basically I'm moving at the beginning of each of those subdivisions, right? 1 and 5. But that doesn't mean it has to be static. I'm doing it very literally to show you, but you can do a lot with that, right? Like, so this is pocket of time of just rhythm. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Like, I can manipulate my shoulders, I can manipulate my chest, but it's basically a pose and I'm dancing within the pose, right? Because most of our fundamentals are poses anyways, right? So, the second pocket of timing comes from air posing, right? So if you guys don't know what air posing is in popping, it's like basically the idea of breathing in and breathing out with the music. So if I'm counting with bars of music, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And each time I'm moving with that, it's moving on the exhale. So that's the even count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So the punctuation or the articulation is always on 2, 4, 6, 8, right? Because in popping, the actual technique is not just breathing. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But you notice that there's that like expand, contract, right? It's like air posing and not just from popping, but like most often poppers use it. But lockers use this a lot as well. So it's useful to know for that respect. The third pocket of timing is a little bit more familiar, right? And this is what most lockers conventionally use. This is hitting every downbeat, right? So if I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and just dancing on each downbeat, right? The fourth one is where earlier we were talking about this, right? This up rock that's very fundamental to our Campbell locking. This is where I use it with light feet because it's very similar. But this is that upbeat and downbeat timing that we were talking about, right? So moving on each eighth note, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and, right? And you do that, that's like high energy. So you reserve that for when you want to create momentum, right, with your dance, with the phrasing that you're using in your dance. The fifth is what we call out of pocket. So out of pocket is when you choose to go with the vocals, when you choose to go with trumpets, when you choose to go cymbal crashes, when you choose to go with the bass guitar, right? Any instrumentation that operates outside of rhythm. Does that make sense? So a whole round can be me just alternating between the pockets, right? And I don't have to do that much, right? I really actually don't have to know the music. So that was like the theory behind why Castro teaches like that for poppers, right? But it's very important because it's like, as cam blockers, we can use that too. I actually talked about this with Julian when he came to visit. He's more of the mind that, like, because funk has hard hits on the 2 and 4, that should be your bass timing always, right? I agree with that so long as if you know that the music operates like that, then fine. Like, that's beautiful. And, like, you should probably, if Julian's ever your judge, keep that in mind. But, like, I think for when I was talking about it with him, I was like, yeah, like, obviously, like, music is the command. That's always, like, the golden rule, right? But if I don't know the music, and it's music outside of funk, then yeah, you should use the pockets of timing to keep yourself grounded. Especially, I'm someone who, like, I think, Shale, you talked about this earlier, like, I used to always dance so fast. I would always be on the front of the beats, so it didn't look like I was sitting in the music. I was actually, like, anticipating a lot of stuff, and I would move too fast. Like, so now I'm lazy, which is why I dance a lot slower, and I try and do the least amount of effort possible to communicate what I want. But back when I started, I was like very like, I have to do everything. But I think what helped me get grounded also and like really systematically like make sure that I'm always grounded is having those like different checkpoints of like, okay, if I feel myself going too fast in a round, I'm gonna force myself to go back to that rhythm base. Like, okay, pocket 1, just do 1 and 5, 1 and 5, right? But then when it gets boring, I'm like, okay, now I can go back to pocket 3 where I hit every downbeat, right? And then now I feel myself, and then now that I'm lazy, I'm like, now I feel like I want to take a break, so I'm gonna move on 2 and 4 instead, right? But then I'm like, oh, but hearing the music, I know that there's this motif that's coming up, so I'm like, the music sounds like it's building up. Let me try and arrive where the music arrives to, right? So that's the beauty of dancing on the rhythm, because it also gives you a chance, like Hurricane was talking about, where it's like you can just chill and still dance and have a connection to the music, show that you have that connection to the music. But then you're more deliberate and intentional, like Matthew was saying earlier, the intention of hitting and showing people the parts of the music that you want them to see. Yeah. Pause. Questions on this? Because this is kind of like, again, like it's a boring thing, right? But I've actually, when I've watched that popping teacher use it in rounds, I'm like, golly, it's so powerful. Or like even Hurricane, like I didn't know what made his dance like so steady. Like even though he does like all of these different Hurricane is known for being like very either acrobatic or like that he blends a lot of stuff into his camba locking, right? From a non-New Yorker perspective. But when I watched him, I was like, when I started using that framework, I was like, wait a second, he does a lot, but it's all under this framework, right? Like of just rhythm, like of being in touch with the music, and then he just chooses the parts of the music that he wants to show us, right? So I think it's a pretty useful thing, like especially if you don't know, like Crump, that's gonna be like your lifesaver. Like you really have to like, because like especially since like the idea is not to beat kill, right? And I think maybe have you guys heard this conversation from like Stretch, like Buddha Stretch, and like a lot of the elders talking about this, like the difference between like beat killing versus like being in harmony with the music. No? Okay. This is an important conversation. So, within hip-hop and, like, hip-hop freestyle and, hip-hop freestyle, popping, and breaking, so, like, the very, like, super aggressive battle styles, like, I guess Crump, too. Like, the idea of killing the beat is that you hit the music so hard with a certain technique that, like, everybody loses their minds and, like, you don't keep dancing, right? Because, like, basically the whole round is just waiting for, like, one of these drops or one of these big moments, and then just calling it a day once you hit that big moment. But as a camba locker, you can. I think y'all already see the problem with that. That the idea is to be like that. The way that we learn to dance is that it's dance. It's not performance, right? Like there's a difference between performative type of like movements versus like actual dancing, right? And so, killing the beat is the wrong mentality to have because we don't want to kill the thing that we want to dance to with. Like the whole point is that the music is the command, and that as a dancer, like, and Ejo taught me this, right? Like as a dancer, like if you guys know Ejo Wilson, the house dancer, but like, he always, like, in his classes, he always talks about, like, the idea is for the dancer to make the music more beautiful, because you're either channeling the music in ways that the listeners and the viewers never thought. You're an extra instrument, and you're adding different accents to the music because you know it so well, or because you're so well connected to it, or like you're just showing people parts of the music that they never heard. They couldn't have like thought of the music like that before, right? So like that's the harmony with music that we want, versus like beat kills are like, I murdered that beat, bro. Like you don't want to murder the thing that we're trying to like connect and like make beautiful, right? So at least, and again, it depends on the music, right? So like Crump, I'd probably see that more like being a thing, or like hip hop for sure. I'm like, I don't think, and again, there's different methods and like approaches and like mindsets, but like you should just like dance. Like, I mean, it's like even like yes, battles have like specific like banter and like context, etc. But like at the end of the day, like it's a dance event, right? Like you should be dancing. So I'll leave that there. If anybody has any thoughts on that, cool. But I'm gonna open the floor for any follow up comments or like any other like ideas that you guys wanted to explore together.
I feel, first of all, I actually really like a lot of the stuff you said, because as someone from the choreo scene, like when I first got into dance, I was in choreo and then I did comp, and then I started doing freestyle because doing comp made me want to like die. I feel like a lot of this, yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff you said is like very like the opposite of what was taught by my teachers in comp, because they're like, I guess the rhythm was pretty similar, because like always dance on beat, know your one, like your full counts, your half counts, your quarter counts, and then like
did Matthew freeze for y'all too?
It's a long count, I guess.
All that.
Matthew,
But then
you
what they
froze on
it's
us.
good. Yeah. I did cringe, bro, just like
oh,
comp.
no.
Sorry, just repeat your last 3 sentences.
Bro, that's like my entire like a soliloquy right there. I was like monologuing for real. Damn. Okay, wait. What was it?
Last thing I heard was
Down.
like staying on beat with the
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like pop taught rhythm really well, but also taught like the opposite of what dance is, I guess, where they focus a lot on being clean, being like basically saying doesn't matter what you feel, as long as you like do the same as everyone else, and as long as you do what the judge wants, you're doing good. And I feel like a lot of the stuff we talked about today, which was like it's okay to break those rules, and it's okay to bring other styles into your foundation and place what you know and what you learned onto like how you naturally move and what you like, is very different from what I guess what I started out as. I was like, oh, that's really nice. And it's like that.
No man, yeah, no, I hear you. I started with choreo too back in university, so definitely relate. And that's why like I broke out of it, because I was like, I don't like copy. I don't like looking like everybody else, right? Like I don't like following rules.
That's me. That's why I stopped.
Because like for me, I was like, this is supposed to be enjoyable. Why does this feel like a job, man? Like,
Yeah.
so like
That's fine.
I really relate to that, and I think again, like choreo people, like they have different things that they train, right? Like, and it's good, like it's necessary, and it's well, not necessary. I will retract that one. It is not necessary, but like it trains a different skill set, is what I'll say. Like, right, and there's an appeal to it because it's like it's commercial. Like there's uniformity. Like when you take a choreo class, like it's a little bit. It's easier to package dance into like this little thing that people can take home and be like, or like, you know. But like I think the beauty of these art forms in street dance, right, specifically, is that you can't do that. Like if someone takes one class, like they'll have an idea, but they can't like. The whole point and the value of it is the struggle, is the wrestling that you do personally with the things that you're taught, right? Like, because nobody expects you to be a beginner master, right? Like your first class, you're not gonna be walking away with, like being able to do like what Don did, like and like fly off of like stages and like swan dive, like all that stuff, right? Or like do your alphas, but like that's the beauty of it because it's like it's a journey, like, and I think with choreo, like there's a difference in like the way, like, and when you build a set, right? Like it's important, like being able to communicate because you only have so much time. And there is a certain criteria for like different competition types of settings. Like that's why like most choreos and routines, like they jam pack their routine. Like any sort of like 1 minute has like 100 different moves and and again like the techniques themselves are actually not that like fleshed out, right? Like they're not that hard, but because the sheer quantity of what they're putting in there, it feels like they're just stuffing everything that they can in that short amount of time, right? Whereas in a battle, I would say it depends on the music and who your opponent is, like in the context of the exchange. But there have been rounds where I've just walked up to someone and just like hit my hips like 3 times, and then everybody's oh versus like someone who's doing like tick 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 tick, like that's not as effective like in certain contexts versus me just like doing a 2-step, right? And like or being like ding ding ding. And everyone's like, oh shit! Right? So, again, different contexts, right? So, choreo, and I agree. But that's why, like, I completely resonate. And I'm like, yeah, put me in freestyle any day. Specifically, Campbell locking. And I think that's the beauty of this art form, right? Like, there are other art forms where it's like, the criteria. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you guys, right? Like, depending on who your judge and what part of the world you're in, there are going to be different like politics, different methodologies that like if you want to win the competition, then yeah, you should probably try and play the game. The battles are always just a game is how I view it, right? It really isn't a reflection of how good a dancer you are. I'll be like really completely 100% honest with you. Like battles are never going to be a reflection of how good a dancer is, right? They're a reflection of how good an individual is at playing within certain parameters. Like luck of the draw with the music, luck of the draw on what like your opponent presents, because like if you guys know, like different judges have different criteria, but the way that we view a lot of battles here in New York, the format is questions and answers, right? So like whoever goes first presents like a whole bunch of different prompts in their round, right? And then the second person, your choices are like you can do the things that like the other person did, except more complex, right? Show a higher level of mastery over technique, show a higher level of mastery with timing, show a higher level of mastery with like different levels and manipulations of those concepts, or throw those concepts out the window and say, actually, here's something harder. And like, yes, I know that you presented these prompts, but what I'm presenting is actually like more aligned with what the music is asking for, right? But more aligned and more complex, right? So depends on your approach to the battle, but like, or to the exchange. Campbell Lockers, I think it's important to realize that we didn't have battle formats when this dance started. Like battle format came to be when the breakers came into existence, right? And breaking culture started permeating all throughout street dance. But since locking is the first street dance, not considering Lindy Hop, not considering authentic jazz and etc., right? But and not like that's its own thing, but it is important too, right? But like we just had contests, like dance contests, and they're very much like showcases, right? Or like partner dance like showcases, right? So like Don, when he would compete, the reason why people would always like be shaking in their boots and why he became such a big deal was because like at first like yeah he was he didn't know what he was doing, he made a mistake, but then he started like really exploring and sitting deeper into like the things that he could do that were so different from everybody else. So whenever he would show up to all these different competitions, everybody was scared when they saw Don go like to these competitions, because they couldn't hold a candle to him because he was so different and he was so confident in being himself, right? So that's exactly what I would say is a good challenge to issue whenever you do battle, right? Especially if it's something that like you do feel connection to the music. Even all these people who are pretty good at like the battle formats in their art forms, some people just don't know how to exchange, and that's what Campbell Lockers are really good at. So take advantage of that in your dance. Yeah. what else? No, I think that's a good way to put that. So. I kind of went on a tangent there, so I hope that brought it full circle based on what you're saying, man. What else? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like music is always key. So whatever you get, just be sure to like dance. Even if you don't camel lock, just dance. Like the worst thing you could do is just like not try and connect with the music, right? So dancing's hard though. I don't know about you guys, but it always makes you rethink things. Like I rethink my connection with like funk every day. It's just there's just so much going on in the music. That's the thing. The beauty of funk is that I think that's why it gives us like a good advantage in these types of formats of exchange or battles, because funk is so complicated. There's so much going on in the music that like when a Campbell Locker really has a good connection to like funk, when you dance to like modern hip hop music, not old hip hop. Old hip hop is pretty good, right? Like because it's very rich, and the way they produced it, or they scored a lot of the samples and stuff, is very like thoughtful. But like when you listen to like Euro hip hop or French hip hop music now, where it's just like metronome and like all these like electronic like ooh do do ooh like there's nothing going on with the music. Like if you really think about it, it's like this is just a metronome. You can just do whatever you want with like the rhythm, right? So that's the beauty of it. Like that's my thing. If you guys want it, if you just want metronome music, ask your popper friends or ask AJ to show you like the European hip hop type music. Or heck, I can even just send you like light beat music and stuff, and you'll be able to hear it. Right? It's very very like bland. Like it's cool. Like for me, I like listening to it, but it's like it's just it's a glorified metronome. But good hip hop is good. Like it's nice, but like some popping music is like straight up just like, bro, what are you doing? You're just putting random sounds to a metronome.
Well, that's what shaping from the poppers there. Hey, yo. let them hear that.
No, but okay. Real P-Funk is pretty good. Like, and that's why, like, lockers can do really well to, like, real P-Funk, right? But, like, some of the stuff they use in international battles, man. Woo! Like, it's good. Like, it literally is just good for, like, white noise type music. Because it just, if you loop that sucker over and over, there's nothing different. Like, it's the same track the whole time. Like, this is like, you just know, like, oh, there's going to be, like, this corkscrew type sound on, like, beat 8 of, like, the eighth bar. Or, like, yeah, it's going to keep repeating like that. Or, like, the music drops out after 4 8 counts. So you have to, like, just kind of, like, beat, like, flow. And then the music comes back. And I was like, yeah, there's nothing, nothing rich going on with the music here. Like, it's very formulaic, is what I'll say. But that's why jazz is really good to like train to. Lately, that's been on my rotation, because like jazz is so unpredictable, and like it's like so like it'll throw stuff at you like out of nowhere, and you have to be so ready for it. And it's like, oh shoot, like I wasn't ready, like, and now I'm hanging here in the balance, waiting for it to come back, like. But having those even though it's humbling, it's really good training, because it's like, I would say, like, this is one of Greg's principles, right? It's the style and grace is what Greg Campbell Jr. once said. Style and grace is the principle that you train to the extremity, so that no matter what, you are ready for anything like lesser, right? So he meant that in the context of like, you want to be so powerful and so big with your movements that like someone like across like a football field can like see what you're doing, right? So this is good for capacity training, but it's not like, I would say apply that to your music training, right? Like, do the hardest stuff that you can find, so that when people give you like normal stuff, it's gonna be so easy for you. It's like, oh, I know how to take this apart musically, like with my dance, like, because this is small peanuts, like small fry, like. But then like when you're over here like labbing to like crump music, like right, like you have to do like weird, like the music's gonna make you tell you to do something weird, like that you're not used to. So, not saying I lab to crump music though, but I haven't gotten around to that yet. But jazz has been pretty good. What else is good? Yeah, I think the Jersey Club stuff is actually pretty. It's a good challenge. What else? Oh well, like I don't know. Maybe I'm dating myself by saying this, but like LMFAO, like that was some pretty good like type of like early EDM rave type stuff, and I was like, okay, like when you locked to this, how does this make you feel? Or like Zed, like rave music, like contrast that to like I don't know, like like dubstep is kind of interesting to like lab locking to. Again, I'm probably like if you ever told people I said this, they'd probably like be like jump back in horror and be like, what kind of Campbell Locker is this? Is he trying to like concur? But I think actually yeah one of the things that Buddha Stretch said is he said you can lock to anything except trap music, but I'm like, no, bro, you can still lock to trap music, bro. You just have you lack imagination. No, I'm just kidding. I love Buddha Stretch, so like that's from a place of love. But like I think he has said that like he will endorse locking to any style of music except trap music. No, he was the DJ for this event this past weekend, so I think some of the people were very like they were on the fence about his music choices, but I really liked it because one of the rounds I had, like he played like Daft Punk like one more time for the first round. I was so bummed because I think my part like it was a 2v2, so my partner took it, and I was like, oh man, I really like Daft Punk, and I wanted to dance. That would have been such a fun song to dance to. But then my big bro Buddha Stretch, he puts on the Light Feet remix of One More Time, so I still got to dance to it. It's just different types of remix, right? So if you ever get Buddha Stretch as a judge, if he comes visit, because I know he likes to travel a lot, so he might come visit y'all at some point. Like, just be aware that his music tastes are a little different. He'll challenge you. He like even one of the final rounds for an event here called Step Your Game Up. I remember he put on a Light Feet track for me, and I was like, holy, like I was like, this is locking the Campbell locking category, bro. Like everybody's gonna like lose their mind, but I was like, I don't mind because I like blending, but like. Like this is, I was like, Stretch, did you know? Are you cheating right now? Did you know that I'm gonna like this song? But everybody else was like, what the hell is he playing? So yeah, just so you know, different DJs have different like. I don't think who is it? Is it Rita Spirit who like DJs for y'all? Now that Hero left. Uh-oh, I think we lost Matt.
I think she's done some of the last battles.
Oh, you did? Okay. Oh, Maggie, hello. Welcome back. Yeah, I know, like, Rita Spirit, whenever Ice Misto comes, Ice Misto. Oh, wait, Mars, that guy. Like, he plays some, like, different type of music, so be careful with him. What else? Yeah, I don't know, because I'm like, I don't know how y'all's DJ stuff is after Hero left. Oh, wait, doesn't Hills DJ? She's pretty good, right? So
Yeah, she's very lo-fi. Like a lot of her stuff is like lo-fi disco, lo-fi hip hop, lo-fi funk. Yeah.
Yeah, I like her style. But when she was like, oh, I like, or she was showing her playlist, I'm like, I like these. Wait, who's the popper DJ guy?
Wesley and AJ have been DJing more than Hills lately.
Hector, Wesley, and AJ. They all have good selections too.
Oh, there's the other popper guy.
It's the Asian popper guy, right, Hector?
Yeah, Hector. Yeah.
I like because he was DJing when I was there for the Parliament Funkaholic one, so that was pretty good. He actually played like some pretty good stuff. So.
And Ice B is good also. He's a main one. Yeah.
So that's what I'll say. Know y'all's DJs for your scene, because like for the different jams that you have, like you can like anticipate the type of flavor that they're gonna bring for your rounds. But yeah. Oh, I don't know if y'all. Maybe I'm assuming not, right? But some people in New York, like for whacking and like some of the other styles, they like to memorize music. I don't think that's the way to go. I will say that. So just, it's one thing to know the music so well because you just happen to hear it a lot or you listen to it, right? But I wouldn't say purposefully memorize music for the sake of like doing well in rounds. Does that make sense for everybody, or do we need to talk about that, or like? It's okay if you have like a different opinion. I was just like, but that was one thing I didn't realize people did.
I've heard some people do it in Vancouver. Like I have a friend who's from Korea, and apparently that's really big there. Like people will just listen to like all the disco songs. It's really enough, is also for whacking. Yeah, and they'll like just sit around and listen to like every disco song and like memorize them, and like before a battle, and then like just drill and like go crazy like 10 hours a day before they go up for the rounds. I'm like, holy shit.
Now, see, that's wild to me. But yeah, if it were the people that they were exactly like you said, like the people that made me think about it was the whackers here in New York. Because I think, and again, no shade, because like this lady knows what she's doing, and she's like trained a whole bunch of really good whackers. But like, I remember one of my friends took like, if you guys know who Princess Lockaroo is, like she's a famous whacker here on the East Coast who learned with a lot of like the different OGs. But the way that she trains a lot of like the beginner whackers is like, or like according to my friend, right? So I don't know. This is hearsay. So don't like. I'm not throwing shade, but like they told me that they like in her program, like she really like part of their like homework is to go home and do exactly what Matthew was saying, where it's like you gotta like go home, listen, like you gotta like memorize the music and be able to hit like whatever technique that the music would like beg of it, right? So I'm like, I was talking about this with Tosh because I was like, what are your opinions on this? And she was like, yeah, no. like for camp, like that defeats the whole purpose of having like an organic connection to the music. So like we were saying, like it's one thing like if you just happen to know the music because like you are cultured and like that just happens to be something that you've heard before, or like you've done it in session before, like when you train, that's fine. But you weren't like the intention wasn't specifically to like beat kill the heck out of the piece because you just happen to memorize it, right? It was just you just happen to know the music really well, right? Like an example like I would use like in the larger like global scene is like when Disaraki got the I'm Coming Up, the Diana Ross song, right? Like at the Red Bull Dance Your Style World Finals thing. But like the thing is he wasn't doing it because he like memorized I'm Coming Up for the sake of killing it for a battle. He happened like, well, I'm going off of his word here, maybe, I don't know. But like he said like in the interviews that he just happened to listen to it a lot growing up when he started dancing. So that's why he knew like where to like each of the drum rolls and like parts were at the beginning of the song that he could beat kill it like that. But I was like, yeah, like that's cool because you grew up with it and like it has a significance. But like it's like, oh, I memorized Funkin' for Jamaica just for the sake of being able to like hit the different horns, like, and it's like, no, don't do that. Like, so yeah, that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, I'll open it up to you. What other culture stuff would you be interested in hearing about? I'm not I'm not an expert, but like I'm happy to like talk through like what I know or what I've been exposed to. So. If not, it's okay. Like oftentimes, like here's a lesson too. We oftentimes don't know what questions we want to ask, and that's okay because like you don't have to know the questions that you want to ask. But
I'm not sure actually what to ask. Kind of what you're saying. Like I don't know what to. Yeah.
No, yeah. I think okay. A couple of things that I've touched on already were like, okay, the big idea about like being yourself. How that like can't nobody beat you at being you. Did create like each of the different flavors of the original Campbell Lockers, right? And then like the idea of exchange versus battling, I think that's become more important. In fact, I think I had a conversation with Kitty about that when I was over there, like, and she also agrees that like I think this whole paradigm shift that we've had within like Campbell locking culture as a whole is one of exchange, like, right? Like, because what power move? Like, there's no burn move. What am I gonna like? What burn move am I gonna do in a like Campbell locking battle? Like, am I gonna go up to someone and like, like take away your high five, right? Or like stuff like that, right? But like, luckily, the dance aspect is the higher priority, when it comes to a lot of our competitions versus like in breaking or in popping, where it's like, oh, you like it's specifically asked for within those styles to like burn your opponent, right? Like we don't need that. You don't need to do that in order to win. Like people do that just by virtue of being like in the art form and in these spaces, but it's not like a prerequisite in order to win a battle, right? Like, and I think here this is where I will touch upon this a little bit with like being able to talk to Tosh about it. And I would invite you to guys to have this conversation with her or ask her opinion if she hasn't already shared it when she came to visit you. But like when they were originally creating the rubric for Campbell locking, the Campbell locking category at HHI, she helped create that with Don Campbell. Like, and Don's prerequisites wasn't like, it wasn't a checklist when they were creating the rubric, right? It was like, oh, like, because they were asking him, like, oh, like, we got to make sure they do, like when they were originally writing the criteria, they were like, oh, like, according to what Tosh was saying, she was like, oh, like we thought that he would, like, you need to do a knee drop, you got to do, like a JB split, you got to do, like, your what is it, like, your alphas, like, and he was like, no, like, none of those were, like, things that I made, like, right, like, that's what Don was saying, and they were all shocked, they were like, oh, really? And they're like, yeah, like, I didn't make a knee drop. I didn't make, like, the JB. I didn't make, like, well, obviously the alphas, right? But, like, he was more focused on, like, oh, like, those weren't things that I did. Like, the only thing I did was, like, up, lock, like, those were the only, like, named moves, right? Like, he didn't even name, like, the wrist rolls, like, the points, like, giving yourself 5, right? Like, all of that was just stuff that we, like, the culture named after so that we could share it with people who didn't know, like, who didn't grow up with Campbell locking and being exposed to that, right? So, like when they did the game of telephone across the seas, like for Europe and for Asia and etc., right? That's why a lot of stuff got like lost in translation, or like what is it? This, like, Tosh always uses the term distortion, right? So like we got to be careful about that, but like at the same time, it's like I think it's interesting when you hear about like what Don actually valued when he watched people dance, and then like I remember this weekend Tosh was talking about like, oh, whenever Don, like he always had a funny way of like I guess viewing someone as they were dancing, because like he would never tell you that he didn't like your dance, but like if he didn't like your dance, she was saying something, like he would tell them like, oh, I really like your shoes. Like, so it's still a compliment at the same time. It's like he's not saying anything about your dance. Or like apparently like his preferences were like a little sporadic, because like one time like he really liked someone who was using like whacking with their locking. And then, but like all the other judges voted for like the other person, but Don was like, I really like the person who was whacking, because like they were being themselves, right? So at HHI they ended up creating like a Don Campbell award that was separate from the actual like judging panel, right? So someone could win the battle, but high key, like if I was a locker back then, like I would have wanted the Don Campbell award. Like you want to get Don's attention, right? Like, or get his like. Make him impressed with whatever you're doing. So I don't know, but there are interviews where he said like one of his favorite lockers of all time is like Fire Locker. So like if you watch like the HHI like battles and stuff, like he specifically had like instances where like he was saying like, yeah, I really like how Firelock danced. Or there's a dancer from the West Coast in LA. Her name is Tiffany, and he also really liked her. Her battle name is Jiminy. So he really liked her. I think he also gave Julia from, well, she's not in Toronto right now, but now she's in Latin America. But back when she was in Toronto, like that Julia who did the Funkyverse stuff, like he really liked her too. So that's what I know. But like I'm just a big nerd, and I would like stalk all the like YouTube videos and stuff just to like find this stuff out. Like I told you, back in Texas, I had no clue whatsoever. So like everything I knew was like just research. Like I didn't experience any of it until like I got here to New York, and then when I started traveling to meet you guys and like a lot of the other people. So culture. But I think, okay, like mentality wise, and this is where I want to like kind of return to what Matthew was talking about earlier. Campbell lockers by nature are individualists. Like that is a huge part of what this culture is, right? Because, like, even just starting with Don, like, the idea of can't nobody beat you at being you, he was really big on that, right? Like when he told people like take my moves and make it yours, like he really embodied it because like even with the Campbell Lock dancers, he really didn't like I don't know if you guys knew this, but like maybe Tosh mentioned it or some of the other OGs mentioned it, but like he really didn't like it when like people started copying him wearing like the Apple hat. So that's why he actually, because he didn't want to be like the other people who were dancing with him and he wanted to be his own person, that's why he started wearing the bowler hat. Like later, like in the middle of all of it, just to be different, right? Or like I don't know, like whenever people, he actually didn't like it when people were copying him dancing at first. Like after a while, like he got used to it because it's like, oh yeah, like it's like imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, as they say, right? But then like for a while, he really didn't like it, like so. But that's why, like, to bring it back to like what Matthew was saying earlier, like it's ironic because I think within Campbell locking culture, we've seen that like outside of the Americas, like there's a huge emphasis on like conformity, right, and being able to look like your teachers or like whatever, like doing things the right way. But it's actually counterintuitive to what the whole essence of the style is, because you're supposed to not look like your teachers. You're supposed to look like you and like have your own flavor to Campbell locking as you dance, so that like all the people in competitions, like they should look different and offer different things to the culture, right? Versus everybody looking like a carbon copy or like a clone of each other. So I want to pose that as like a mental exercise or challenge to y'all. Like, do you prefer when like people look clean or like conformity, like a choreo mentality, or do you prefer to look like yourself, right? Or like that, do you prefer to make people look as themselves, as unique as they can, right? There's no right or wrong answer for that, but like I definitely would say like you'll notice that within the Americas, like there's a higher push for that individualism, right? Versus like overseas. Like when you go to overseas, yeah, like everybody looks the same. And so I'm like, why do you guys like have people that like are more popular than other people? Because everybody's just dances the same way. Well, okay, not entirely true. Like there are some people that have like their own flavor, but like for the most part, it's like, yeah, like everybody be kind of looking like like the same deal. That's not bad, right? Like strong foundation and strong fundamentals will always be a good thing, but what you do with it, the things that you're trying to say with it, is important. All that to say, I wish I had stronger fundamentals and foundation. But you know, it'd be like that. So just be yourself. I think that's the other thing. You can't pretend to be something that you're not. So, like, I think that's the one thing that, like, people will always, like, dock you on, no matter where you are in the world. So it's better to just be true to what you know and what your background is. There we go. Now it's full circle. What you were saying earlier, Matthew, about, like, oh, it's different, because, like, in the choreo, like, the comp stuff, like, blah, 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 like, all the directors don't want you to bring your background into it and stuff. There's actually two guys here. Well, I guess Hurricane does it too, so 3. And then I guess Firelock kind of does that too, so it's 4. But like capoeira, which is like the Brazilian martial art, where like they do like a lot of like groundwork and like flips and like macacos and stuff. Like they, it's influenced a lot of breaking. It's influenced a lot of house. It's influenced, like there are a couple Campbell lockers here who they really use like a lot of capoeira techniques in their Campbell locking as well, which is why they can do like those cool like the macaco, where it's macaco is the one where it's like you're basically doing like a bridge, and then you can like slow mo your legs over while you're like like, Ijo used to do it a lot in house, and then like I know a lot of the breakers do it a lot. Hurricane does it a lot. Firelock can do it a lot. I've seen there's a guy named who's one of the new gen lockers. He won the Get Lifted in San Francisco, and he got second place here in New York. His name is Sequoia. He does it, and he's a big guy, and he can do it. That's why he's super impressive. And then, like, there's another guy who, his name is Izzy here, and he does it too. So, yeah, cool stuff. So, think about martial arts. How do you bring martial arts into it? I use some martial arts in my Campbell locking too. So, house people like to use martial arts a lot too. Like Sekou, he's like one of our, like, the Mop Top OGs too, or like house OGs. He's very big on like how do you use martial arts in your house, like yeah. So I think that those are like cool inspirations, right? So what I invite you to do is like in your own life, what are things that like you grew up watching that like would inspire you, or like pop culture references, or like any sort of background that you have that you haven't like tapped into but you think could have potential in the way you dance? Like how do you bring that in? A literal way that I've done it is I used to do like nunchucks a lot when I was younger. So like I take my towel and like if it's weighted enough, like has enough weight to it, then like in the middle of rounds I like bust that sucker out and I'm like, yeah. So yeah, non-lethal. It's not actual nunchucks. Light feet people are different though. They're built different. They've actually brought real nunchucks and like weapons and stuff like that into battles. Not to use on their opponent, but like getting that close. And I'm like, woo! Or there was a guy at Just Debut here in Washington D.C. Like for the USA qualifier, he had a bow staff in the ciphers for some reason. So he was like doing like house stuff with like this big old stick. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna hit someone. But see, but those are cool ways, because I'm like, I respect it though, because it's like I know they're trying to bring like themselves into their dance, right? So okay, I'm gonna pause again for any other thoughts, feedback, and like comments that you guys have had. Like, I'm just yapping. I want to give you guys stuff to think about.
I think I'm about out. I don't know if I think you covered a lot.
No, I feel you. If at any point,
Yeah.
like, we could just yap about, like, non-dance stuff now, too. So, I'm happy to just have more casual, like, office hour time now, too. But,
Yeah, my battery's about to die on my cell phone. But yeah, I'm trying to take it all because it was a lot of information, very helpful information for sure. But I got to write a lot down because I'm not going to remember. But yeah, it was, very helpful for sure. And yeah, I learned a lot. My battery's at like 15% though.
oh, no. Wait, yeah, get
How much
charged.
longer I'm going to hang on?
Yeah, no worries. Power is important, so get that on. I have my my charger, too, because I was like, just in case. But, yeah, no, I think if you guys have any, like, other, like, things that you think about or follow-up questions, like, even after we, like wrap up for this, like, I'm always happy to be, like, a resource or be accessible, because, again, like, I haven't been doing this too long, like, for too much longer, but, like, just by sheer exposure to, like, a lot of, like, the elders here in New York and, like, a lot of the scene here, I think it is pretty valuable experience that I understand. I'm, like, having visited a lot of different scenes, like, and having come from, like, that background, like I told you guys in Texas, where it's, like, you just had to battle to be part of stuff. Like, I get it. Like it's a little hard to, like, contextualize and, like, place if you're not, like, around these people that, like, grew up with this. Or, like, because I didn't grow up with this, right? Like, I mean, like, I'm Filipino, so, like, it's kind of different because, like, I guess, in a way, like, people really like Michael Jackson, or, like, we're a little bit closer where, like, we do have, like, music on when we do, like, chores and stuff. And, like, so it's, like, kind of close, but at the same time, it's, like, it's still different, like, right? Like, and I think culturally those differences are important to bring in to your dance, right? Like, as you, like, give back to this, like, community that, like, we're now a part of and stuff, it's, like, how do you, like, use the things that, like, you grew up. That's why I was asking you guys about, like, what are things that, like, from your childhood, or, like, the way that your background is, that, like, you haven't thought of, like, bringing into your dance yet that you could, right? So, like, very similarly, like, how do you use that to pay it forward and, like, appreciate this thing that we become a part of, right? This Campbell locking, like, link community, global thing, right? Resurgence! Yeah! That everybody's been saying. But I think it's really cool, because it's, like, I didn't know that. Like it inspired me more. Like, when I told Geraldine this, but, like, when I went to Vancouver and I saw, like, just how much, like, y'all's community is, like, thriving, and there's stuff going on, and, like, there's a lot of new gen that are interested. That's really cool, because, like, I feel like, I mean, like, the PNW area, like, with y'all, Seattle, like, that's pretty cool. Like, the Bay Area has, like, some, like, young folks that are also interested in Campbell locking. Like, here in New York, we're finally getting people. Like, Boston, they have a couple. Like, Philadelphia, they have people. I think there's a few people in Florida. Now there's like a couple of people back in my hometown in Texas. There was a guy in Minneapolis that I told you guys, Minnesota, who was like interested. Toronto has a pretty cool scene. Montreal has a cool scene. Like, I didn't know that. Like when I started, I thought I was like, oh dang, all the people that I'm like interacting with, they're like kind of older than me. Like that dude Campbell, I was like, oh my, like, cause like at least in the States, it was like I think back when like around COVID, like you really couldn't find people who were like sub like upper 30s or not upper 30s, sub upper 20s, right? So, but I mean like even anything between like your mid 20s to like your mid 30s, like upper 30s, like almost like lower 40s and stuff, like I still think that's all considered like new gen, right? So being able to like hold it down and like bring other people, all your friends and stuff who are like interested, who might like find freedom with it, right? I think a lot of the Foolish fam here, I think what a lot of them have been drawn to like this Campbell locking stuff is just because of like what you guys were saying earlier. Like there's actually like you're free to be you with this, right? Like so I feel like we get a lot more people to dance with if people focus more on that versus like you have to be straight, ha ha ha, you know, like. But yeah. Any final thoughts you guys had? If you like, I know we said our brain is fried, so I'm not gonna keep adding on. I realized I was like, wait a second, I'm starting to add. But happy to hear any like wrap up thoughts, and then we can just yap after.
I don't know. For me, it just was like really cool to just hear about like different scenes, both like via place and via time. Because I don't know, it's like I'm still pretty new to this, so it's just like this is like Vancouver's like all I know versus like one time we went to Seattle. So it's really cool to see like or hear about like you know like what other people are doing.
Not for sure.
And see that too.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
I was gonna Shia, like 100%. Actually, like all of you should go to New York because when I went to the Get Lifted battle, that was like told me and Brendan, we were just like mind blown because we were like we've never seen locking this way because it's very different than West Coast and you can totally tell the difference. But yeah, it was like, oh, this is the locking I actually like. So yeah, you need to experience locking in different cities for sure.
Yeah, like I think every scene has like their own flavor. Like is what I'll say. Like, because even if you go like, and I mean like you can. YouTube is your friend, like Instagram is your friend, like you can see it. Like I think like even prior to like me starting to like actually go see you guys or like see different scenes and stuff, like I kind of had an idea. Like we all know and like and I mean of course like I think the forefront is like just because of the sheer amount of people doing it, like you see like a lot of like Asian lockers pop up like on a lot of your algorithms, right? Like and it's not like there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time it's like because of that thing that we were talking about earlier about like the difference in what people prioritize in different scenes, that comes across, right? So I think it's really cool. But y'all are always welcome here. Like, I mean, I know it's far. We're on the other side of the continent. But if you ever have an excuse to come out, would love to show you the scene and like have y'all meet some of the folks out here. Again, like I said, like the new gen, it's a little bit more like sparse, but then like you have people like Hurricane here. I think Firelock is starting to get back into everything because he's been hanging out in the Bay Area in San Francisco lately. So I don't know if he's planning to stay over there, if he comes back to New York, if he's planning to be active and stuff. But that guy has like him, Hurricane, like they've been all around the world. Like they really do like have a good idea. Like and they find y'all like they think of y'all fondly in Vancouver too. Or like the older heads, like the Van City Locker. But I think what else? Like here and like there's just a whole bunch of OGs that like I said, like they just don't go out a lot, but like when they do come out it's like, whoa, like dang, like I didn't know you were here. But it's cool. Like now I know about you. Like and now you're like a big bro or big sister in the style. Like I think like one of the ones I met at like one of the generic parties was like there was this girl who was in like one of the Michael Jackson like bad videos and was like was locking in the bad video and I was like, what in the world? Like that's so cool. And I was like, golly. Or like who else? Like I think there was someone who was like in like who danced alongside Shabadoo and like was in Breaking or something. like the movie. That's like old stuff. I have a DVD, but I only know it because like my dad and like he grew up with that stuff too, so he knew what I was talking about. And same with Tosh. He was like, oh yeah, I know, like you should get that. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. What a small world. My parents know this, and like Tosh said it. So, but yeah, so good to travel if you can, of course, within your means, right? Like it's not something that everyone can do, but it's like I know my homie, like David, he actually doesn't like traveling a lot. So when I brought him out to see y'all, that was like a big step for him. But like he appreciated it, but he even told me, he's like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna be traveling much, but it was good to experience. So I was like, you gotta find what your comfort level is with that stuff, and what's possible, right? Like if you gotta save pennies for a year to do that stuff, cool. But like if you're not able to, then that's also cool, right? Like having your own scene and being able to build that up is just as important. So. Because I think Stretch and a lot of like the elders that we have here in New York, like they had a conversation with the Lightfeet people, and like even though like a lot of Lightfeet is under the hip hop umbrella and it's a hip hop dance, it's not actually considered hip hop freestyle because it's its separate roots. But they were also saying it's because like since Stretch and a lot of the folks who were like ROGs, like for like house and hip hop and stuff, they weren't around in New York City to like help build the local scene because they were always like traveling to teach all over and stuff. It was a little harder for like the Lightfeet new generation folks to like come up like and be in the culture too. So that's why it's important to have strong home front and strong like if you choose to have strong like that's just TMI. Sorry. I thought like that I'm just yapping now. Sorry. Yeah, but like I said, if you think of anything else, like happy to do it here or happy to call it a day because I know we talked. I yapped a lot. I'm sorry. Like that's why like if you think of more stuff, I'd love to have more back and forth. But like it's okay if not. Like right like and my I'm always open. Like so just shoot me a message or whatever. Now we have Messenger too, so you can message in the group chat if you choose to do that too. Thanks Geraldine for setting it up or the group chat and with the call and stuff and organizing. So I hope like y'all find like the same sort of like grounded because I think like a common thing that I heard was like you're trying to find groundedness in like the art form and in the dance, right? So my wish would be like as you're going through, right? Like, and it's not something that happens overnight, right? Like I didn't feel grounded until I guess like 4 years into it, huh? But like yeah, it took a while for me, but like I'm hoping like you guys whatever baby steps you can take to like feel more grounded, like the 1% every day like does add up, right? So for me it took 4 years, right? Because I started end of 2019 and then like it didn't really feel right for real until like 2023. Or actually, okay, I will say it felt okay when I was when there were no other lockers, but then when I moved to New York I was like, oh shoot, I actually don't know what I thought I knew. So then it was like time to go back to step one, and then but that's also cool because like I think Tosh always says something of like to the effect that like we learn, we think we know, but then we unlearn and we relearn, right? So it's a continuous process of like doing this with everything. Because even some of the stories that they tell you are like, oh, like it's actually not right, or like actually like here's a fact you didn't know that changes the whole story. And I'm like, what? Like he said what? No. Like she did this? No. Yeah, high key, like it's kind of interesting to hear the lore behind a lot of like the OGs and elders because it's like, oh shoot, I didn't know there was like tea on like this stuff, or like, oh, like this person actually didn't create this movie, or like, whoa, like stuff like that, right? But we're human, so it's like this art form is a human thing. Like nobody was like perfect, so like there's still drama, like, and that's cool, right? So, but yeah. Do you guys have any like parting thoughts before we shut it down? I know like we can give your Thursday back. Like, you guys are young, so like you probably have like plans of going out or whatever. I'm just gonna sit here and get ready for work.
I just wanted, to thank you, Jason, for teaching us everything, and then also for everyone joining. I know all of you are busy with your work and your studies and everything, so just thank you, everyone.
Yes, like in the future, let me see. Like if you guys want to meet more of like the New Yorker people, I can like try and drag them on the Google calls. But we'll see. I'm not gonna guarantee anything because I know, like I told you guys, I don't know because they don't respond to stuff in the group chat. But like if I know that for sure like people are interested, like then I'll happily set it up again so we can do something similar, right? Just so you can say hi. Like I think that's the beauty of like being in this like, now that we live in an era with technology, a lot of the lockers that couldn't connect before, like we have the luxury of doing that, right? So we should like try and like share our stories, because like I think the beautiful thing is, and I hope you guys feel the same way, is like we're not alone, right? Like I think a lot of people are going through the same like types of like ups and downs with all of this stuff on all parts of the coast, right? Like whether you're the West Coast or you're the East Coast, but it's the same but different journey for each person. So we're all in the same boat. We're trying to somehow be more of ourselves. But I think one of the things, there's like this quote that I always read was like, if you can be so strongly yourself or so like unapologetically yourself, like that you inspire other people to be yourself too, that's pretty cool. Like, so I think that's what like Campbell locking is to me. So, but I'm sending y'all good energy too, because like it's a thing. It's a thing. Like it's a struggle. Like it's no easy thing. So, but thanks for yapping with me. It's very fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for hosting this.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime. I'm gonna be traveling coming up pretty soon, but not for like dance stuff. I mean, like more like family stuff. So, but yeah, when I get back or like whenever y'all like have some time, like just hit me up. Love to stay in touch and like hear what you're up to. Good luck with the All Styles battles. Who like for all of y'all like doing that coming up pretty soon, and then like even with like the other dance stuff, like as you explore, like even if it's outside of Campbell locking, like or if you're coming back from a break, like that's a big thing too, right? Ease yourself in, like or even with the All Styles stuff, like ease yourself in, like don't like there's no need to like take a cold plunge and like go cold turkey or like go straight in, right? So just like get a feel for it, see if you like it. If you don't like it, then that's okay too, right? Like each person has their own like stuff that they prefer. So, but yeah, like each of it is an experience. Though. I would say it's a good experience just to give it a shot, see what happens. So, but keep me posted.
Okay, I'm gonna call it. You guys can leave. I feel like everyone's being too polite, so I will say, okay, we can end this. Yeah, go Shale, go Maddie. Thank you, Alan. Jason, if you want to continue talking after, I can talk with you to catch up. Everyone fucking go.
You're just like, no, everyone get the fuck out of here now. It's done. My time. We're on bed right now.
I'll see you later.
I got to go. I'm really kind of. I still need to eat today.
Yeah, go eat. Oh my gosh, you could have eaten while we were talking. I'm just here.
You never ate yet? Oh
I had one meal so far, and I'm done.
What?
Yeah.
You're just powering through coding the whole day?
Yeah, pretty much. I worked like 10
Matthew!
hours yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Not do this.
I am not
so
happy.
unhealthy.
This is not
Oh,
good.
God.
Don't. I have you to
Okay,
take
go
care
eat,
of
go
Mother
eat.
Geraldine. Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
See you later.